and I've been thinking about like the Incredibles. Like, do we want to go like full cheese and have like superhero shit with it? You know, like
Interesting.
like deep in the underground of the gaming universe lies gems that no one else have played. You know, and it's just like thunderbolts and like guitar solos and like Incredibles. You know,
You now have the intro.
bringing the games to light. You know, we'll hire Jack Black, dude.
I mean, we don't need to. We have Xander. Like, we're good. We're good. It's hilarious.
That would be the intro. I don't
Because like we were trying to come up with a name for the podcast, and you're like, Dad Jump, the Indie Credible podcast. It's like, all right, well, it's now stuck. Thanks.
I love like little puns like that though.
And this is the introduction, so this is the best.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how it started, folks. That's how it all began. Indie puns and dad jokes.
You get to introduce yourself first, though, Mr. Incredible's voice. You got to do
Incredibles, but
the depths of
so glad I recorded that because that was just off the top of my head. But anyway, my name's Xander Skullion, and I'm a YouTuber, podcaster, now a live streamer. I've been live streaming a lot more lately, but a musician. I like to do music as well. But yeah, I've been doing this now for 12 years, which is a really long time, very long time. I was looking back at some of my older videos, and you know, when I first started doing YouTube, like we were into the Xbox 360, PS3, and Wii. Like that was like the current gen at the time. But yeah, and here we are now speculating, you know, new Nintendo consoles. We got a PS4 Pro, you know, it's getting us with that nostalgia.
You're old. I'm whispering at nothing, but literally I'm recording on the AirPods. You're old. It's the PS5 Pro.
Yeah. Did I say PS4 Pro?
You definitely did.
PS5 Pro. And then of course whatever Xbox is doing, you know. So
Yeah.
But yeah, what about you, sir?
So I'm Jeffrey Widdenhagen. I've been part of the community for about 20 years now doing stuff. Never been much of doing the YouTube thing, but I've been podcasting forever. And I write a lot of books on stuff, run a couple publishing companies, started a video game company in 2020 called Premium Edition Games. Book company's called Hagen's Alley Books. You know, last name's Wittenhagen, so wife said Hagen's Alley, so she had a great name, you know, a dad joke pun.
I like it.
Yep. But I've been doing tons of books for, you know, over the past, you know, 14, 15 years. I think it's close to $30 published now on video games, which is insane to think about, by the way.
Yeah.
Nuts. And yeah, like we had you on one of my other podcasts, and we were like, we need to do something strictly on indie games.
Mm-hmm.
Cause like I've been doing video game bullshit for like almost as long as my daughter's been born, for like 12 years. And so like, but that's like everything, and that's having people on doing all the things. But the indie game piece hasn't been sufficiently covered to the way that my research has led me. And that's the interesting piece, because I find stuff that nobody finds. And it started with, you know, I started Premium Edition Games, and before you get big as a company, you look for games. And so I was like, all right, well, let me start looking for some games that I think don't have a physical that might be cool. But what you don't realize is there's thousands of those.
So,
man, it's insane. And so at this point, you know, Premium's been around for 4 going on 5 years. And there's such a backlog of amazing games and developers that contact us and all that stuff, to where, you know, we have a backlog of games to announce, even, let alone that are in production. And I don't own the company anymore. I'm just the chief creative officer. I do all the awesome physical packaging for the games.
Which you have a knack for, because I mean, you're talking about your books, and folks, I mean, if you don't have any of these books, they're beautiful. Look, he's about to pull some out right now.
Oh yeah, I have and I move around a lot because my main job is I'm still in the active duty army for 20 years. So like I'm still in, but this is the definitive complete NES, which was one of my first books that I created the company around. This is the definitive edition, which
Look
is
at that.
500 fucking pages. Like this is,
and it's like the books are just they look nice. Like I love them. You know,
this has a soft touch, and this is shiny, and you know the artist was Joe Simcoe, did Garbage Pail Kids, which was amazing to get, and then flip cases, you know, and then I got over here Metroidvania Chronicles, which is a mini book, but it's still freaking 200 pages. Like this is this is all Metroidvanias, just because I love the genre. Then I got smaller. Like this is the Black Box Challenge, the game that I released back in 2017? RPG where you collect video games. But then I decided, I'm going to do this like Worlds of Power, but with choose your own adventure pictures, and I wrote narratives, and then had like line art in here. It took me years to write this thing, but like I had an artist that did this, and she was super talented. But like even I was like, hey, I want Master Daniel Pacina to be one of the trainers. So like she literally has Master Daniel Pacina and drew the caricature perfectly. His Mickey Ivy did that art, like so cool. But like this is just little weird. Like I just have 3 books sitting here, and I publish other people. But it's like that's the physical realm I'm in, and then you know Nintendo allows me to do video games too.
Yeah,
which is wild.
So cool.
I think we're over 20 physicals now for Switch.
I know we've talked about in the past, like with your other show, just collecting for the Switch, man. That's God help you.
I mean, I did one of the old podcasts I was on was the Switch Mania Playcast, and that one I had the 2 co-hosts collected every freaking game, and it was like I think one of the guys, Barry, who's also on the premium team. I think he still goes for every game and every like variation. Like it's insane. He doesn't just collect Switch; he collects PS5, everything. Like it's insane.
That's so wild.
But the long story short with the physicals and the design crap and all that stuff is that I was researching all these games, and I was adding them to my Steam Deck. And so I would go and find these games, add them to my Steam Deck, and I ended up having a backlog of over 800, 900 games that'd be cool to sign for a physical. So I had a crazy-ass idea. I'm like, why don't I create a book on it called Indie Gaming Gems? And how my OCD brain works is I'm like, so if I do this, let me look on YouTube. There's no channel called Indie Gaming Gems. So save the channel. So now I have a channel called Indie Gaming Gems, which coincidentally will be launched by the time this episode goes live. But I know you had recommended I get about 3 to 4 episodes recorded to have a backlog. I have 5 already recorded and ready to go. The 5th one is really cool because it's fan-made indie gaming.
Ooh, I like that stuff.
Oh yes, yeah. So like crazy stuff, and I'm doing. I've been getting feedback because doing how I've been doing things for the last like 20 years. After my first book, I was invited to be a guest at conventions, and then getting to meet everybody and talk shop and do all the craziness. I just reached out to a bunch of y'all creators, talented creators, and way more than me, and got feedback on the style and everything. And now I've gotten it dialed into where it's pretty much perfect. There'll be like 10 to 15 minute episodes, top 10s of indie gaming gems. And then I just messaged you. I'm like, hey, you want to do a podcast on this too? Like, I mean, I know you're starting to stream stuff. Like, just bullshit about indie games. And it'll all go together.
Yeah, because when I was on that last show, like, you had already mentioned like a handful of games I didn't even know about. And, and I mentioned on that episode, I mentioned back then, like that was the thing that I loved about YouTube and gaming, finding out about games. Like that's one of the things I like to do when I make YouTube videos. I like to recommend games to folks, or folks make a comment and they're like, you like this, you might like that. I've always loved that. So like when you're like, you want to do like an indie podcast, I'm like, absolutely, because it gives me more of a chance to find out more about these games and dive into them. And then I know there's going to be some that I might find that you might not know about, and vice versa. And it's good stuff.
Well, and the idea is, this is the opposite of depleting the backlog. This will just increase everyone's backlog infinitely, because like essentially the games we're going to cover, like we're not playing these to fruition, we're highlighting them, and we don't have time to play them all either. So it's like, all right, here's what's coming out. And there's like 5 to 10 games a week that I find that look amazing. There's way more that come out, but there's about 5 to 10 that I find I'm like, oh, these are cool. And we'll highlight them here. We'll talk about them. And the thing is, and this is something that we can absolutely talk about, and we should probably talk about it maybe as a whole episode later. But we had talked about YouTube, the algorithm, all the madness, and the idea behind what I just mentioned, though, a book, a channel, and then a podcast. But also I run a publishing company, which means I know how to make all of these unique things. So the idea is that once I get a big enough backlog of episodes, the episodes feed into the book. So say I cover 10 episodes a game, right? And every game has a 2-page spread in the book. So if I do 25 episodes, that's how many pages? 500. That's a lot of pages, right? 500 pages already. So that's a 500-page book after 25 episodes. 25 episodes might be a season of indie gaming gems. And then not only that, but I also know how to make Blu-rays and DVDs because publishing company. So like literally I can have a book, the series can be on a Blu-ray. And I mean, it's one of those classic in top 10 indie channels that looks pretty dope. Ooh.
Yeah.
Computer just went off.
Uh-oh.
That's just the screen. It's not my phone.
There.
But that's the backlight. It's the lighting of the TV. It just went off again because, things. But that's when we talk our gaming setup, so you'll know why it did that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's the idea, though. So when you mentioned the other day about the YouTube algorithm, all those things, in reality, my opinion, and it could be, just because I'm the older generation growing up on Atari and Nintendo, is that I'm just going to make cool stuff. I want to make cool episodes, make a brand, and then that brand, if people enjoy it, that's what we will go towards. So the Indie Gaming Gems will be what it is. And if it doesn't get 1 million views, okay, well, because it'll be physically preserved. And a reference forever.
I'll be honest. At the end of the day, I just find out about more games to play.
Exactly.
I win. I win regardless.
I mean, I'm even wearing an indie game on my T-shirts. Robot Named Fight, which is a game. It's a Metroidvania. It's Infinite Super Metro.
So good. So
it's like Premium published it, so that one's more known. The stuff I'm finding nobody knows about because so many games are released every day on Steam and on Switch, and there's so many games coming out. And so the idea is like highlight them. If people like them, maybe we get a big listener base on the podcast, on the channels. Your channel to watch you live stream this stuff. My channel to actually watch the formal review on it. It's more of a a scripted talk about of it. But I'm throwing in my personal conjecture on it as well. And I'm going to do more and more as the episodes go on. You're going to find out on the channel. It's funny. I'm like more personal than scripted. But the thing is
that happens.
But we all win because we're finding new games to play. More people that play the games then show the developers that what they're doing is interesting, and they'll make more games.
Exactly.
And it's like it's a win-win-win situation. And so to me, it's like the idea is the branding piece. And I actually, because the military minded me, I'm OCD, not military. That's not a military thing. I'm just OCD because it's me. But I also did a military piece where I actually formalized my plan for creating the branding. So I actually have it all templated out in kind of an adult learning concept on how I created it. This after the fact. But then I formalized it. I'm like, oh yeah, there's actually a method to the idea that I'm doing, and it's beyond what an internet algorithm tells us. Because that's the biggest thing you see with YouTube channels is they worry about views, and if an episode doesn't get views immediately, it demoralizes. We're gonna play video games here. We're gonna have a good time. And in the end, people we'll take it to crowdfunding, like a Kickstarter or a backer kit or whatever, and let people enjoy and experience it. We'll do badass packaging for it. I'll create some really cool stuff. Some cool as shit. So it's I already know in my mind, if it's half of what I think in my mind, the whole end product's gonna be cool as shit. And then we throw these episodes on there as a bonus So then the podcast is preserved physically, which there aren't too many podcasts preserved physically.
And you would be surprised of how much I go back and listen to really old podcasts. Because a lot of people, they hear a podcast being archived, they're like, oh, okay. No, you don't understand. I love going back, and a couple of years ago I had COVID. It was right the beginning of 2023 I had gotten COVID. So I'm not really doing too much. I'm feeling like death. And I was listening to old episodes of All Gen Gamers podcast. And I was listening
classic.
And I was sitting there listening to them talk about games 2014. They didn't know what the Wii U was going to be. They're like, oh, this new Nintendo Cafe console, that's cool stuff. That is really cool.
It's wild stuff. That I now personally know all the members of the All Gen, even though I didn't meet them all at the same time. Because All Gen Gamers, let me see if I got all the names right. So we got Pete Dorr, which I think one of my first conventions, him and I were shooting the shit for the longest time. But I haven't really seen him since then because he doesn't go out to a lot of conventions. But you have Jason Heine, who does all the drumming and stuff at Portland. He was doing that.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Which is just badass. John Lester, Games 31. I've been on his channel. He invites me to his convention. Him and I are brothers.
Yeah, Gamester is a wonder. Gamester, you know what? He is one. When I was talking earlier about the podcast, guests having the patience of a saint, Gamester was definitely one of them, because I remember me and James, when we were doing Excess Gaming, we had him on the show, and we were both big All Gen Gamers podcast fans back then. So we're both, man, it's freaking Gamester 81, and everything kept messing up. He's like, it's all right, guys. We'll just keep trying. And I was
John's cool as hell.
Yeah.
And I've roomed with him at conventions and craziness. I go way back with John. He's awesome. And then of course I just got to hang out with Johnny Millennium. He was at one of the last conventions, because I can't do any conventions while I'm out there. I'm in training right now for the Army for the next year. So I go to work all day, and then I'm kind of off. Family's over at an appointment right now, so I get to record. So I got to hang out with him over at it was at Gamesters convention at Game On Expo in Phoenix.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, and we were hanging out talking about TurboGrafx and PC Engine games.
Oh man. Yeah. Between Spider 21A and Johnny, TurboGrafx 16 stuff,
So
I learned so much.
You mentioned the key right there, Spider 21A, which Chris Bushi, he is the business idea. I just heard my dog barking, so that means my family. So, but that is literally it, because he created TurboViews, and TurboViews he created with it's episodic, it's structured, and then he did 25 episode DVDs.
And this was years ago, man. This is
and I got a history with him too, because of course I do, but this is before I even started writing website blogs and stuff. I started, Video Game Masters Club emulation in the browser, where I actually had a website, but I wrote reviews. I reached over because he posted something on social media where his hard drive crashed and the show was dead. And I'm like, hey man, send it to me, I'll fix it. And I recovered his hard drive and saved the show. It came to me, and I defragged it. I found all the files that he needed and just sent it back to him all fixed. And actually, I put it all on Google Drive and sent him the Google Drive, and I sent him back the hard drive. And so, like, because you imagine he was ahead like 20 episodes and it was like dead. Like, imagine like he was in a place and I'm like, let me try to fix it, man. He's like, do you need anything? Nope. I just want to enjoy more of your content.
Yeah.
And it was before I started doing anything that I'm currently doing.
Yeah, his channel, like, man, because, you know, TurboGrafx 16, I never had one. And, you know, I never really knew anyone who had one. Yeah. And I knew about it because I've read, like, you know, Tips and Tricks magazine or Game Pro, and they would have, like, TurboGrafx 16 stuff. So, you know, I didn't really get into it until much later in the game, thanks to, like, the YouTube community. I learned more about it. Man, it's one of my favorite consoles now.
Exactly. And, I mean, to me, those are the obscure gems back in the day. Like, my neighbor, when I growing up, like 2 doors down, they had a turbo. And I used to play like Tricky Kick and Bomb's Adventure and stuff. And I was like, what the hell is this? Like, I played as a kid, but I never got to play more than a couple minutes because it's their stuff. And
I mean, I didn't play a TurboGrafx 16 until like 2014 at a convention. That's how long. I had never held the actual controller. Like, it was never around.
Wow.
But I always heard about it.
And I have it's over here, but I have a modded Turbo Express with an LED screen and a rechargeable battery on it that one of the community members did. Like Mr. Wizard, if you know Mr. Wizard, he did mine. That's super talented. But I don't even have the charger for it right now because I don't know what the charger is. I had to find it. Like, I gotta ask him, hey, what's the heck's the charger for this thing? I've moved several times and I don't know what I did with it.
Oh, well, on the plus side, I'm pretty sure, like everyone else, we have big tubs full of cables. So once we find out what that plug is, you don't have the cables?
No, it's not a normal charger. It's like something that they created. Like, it's like off of a rechargeable battery pack or something. Like, I don't. I have to, like, I'm gonna have to take a picture of it and send it to you and be like, what the hell is this?
I was actually gutted that you didn't. I was thinking you didn't have any containers of wires. And I was like, poor Jeff. Poor Jeff.
I do, but also, like, I've moved multiple times. So, like, a little bit of my background being Army is that I had my whole life over in Georgia, where I was over at Fort Gordon, Georgia. The Army moved me to Hawaii, hardship tour, but there's not a whole lot of space and you can't bring everything. So half of my stuff, including my entire gaming collection, is still in Georgia. Wow. Everything. And so then, the Army moved me out here for training to Texas. I'm in El Paso, Texas right now for the next year. I moved me away from Hawaii after less than a year, but I'm out here still without all my stuff because I hadn't had time to go get it in Georgia. And I mean, I'm going to move again next summer somewhere, which the Army hasn't told me where yet, because that's the neat thing. They don't tell people that. I like that quote from Ultraman, but that's the neat thing about it. They don't tell you. But I mean, I'll find out where we're going to go. Hopefully they send me back to Georgia. That is on my list. So I would love to go back there because then I can get all of my video game stuff. And I'm talking about a full storage unit filled with the brim with video games. Like, it's amazing. Collecting for 30 years. Like, it's wild. So, like, that's why, like, I happen to have like 3 books here of my 30 because the rest in storage.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's a wild thing. And just, forewarning for the listeners, like, I will go off on rabbit holes, so if Xander doesn't reel me in, like, we'll be talking about all the
He's talking about storage units and
crazy shit. Video games storage, man. We're talking collector shit now. Like, it's wild.
Oh,
but really, this is our background right now and what we do and who we are, and so it does all technically apply.
I'm a conflicted collector. That's what I look at myself. Because I used to have a big collection. Now I didn't have the biggest collection, but I had a pretty good collection of games, and I collected for years. And then 2017 I ended up selling most of it, if not all of it. And I kept a good little section of it. One of the games I held on to was my Missile Command for the Atari. I held on to that because that's actually my very first video game I played. It belonged to my grandpa. My grandpa was a gamer, and he has Atari 2600. It was like a Sears model, so it played Atari and it played. Yeah, it was one of those, and yeah, he had Missile Command. That was the first video game I played, so that's like a piece of history right there. And I also have a random Pac-Man manual.
Well, and if you think about it, the Sears Telegames, little did you know, actually has better video quality components than the Atari 2600 Heavy Sixer or the Junior Edition or the Vader.
Wow.
The Sears Telegames has a better, crisper picture on the old CRTs.
I have to show you because I have a picture of him when he got it for Christmas. I have to show you a picture of him with the box. It's really cool. But
well, and I will tell you, like, being a nostalgia collector, to me, isn't a bad way to go. You're not trying to collect all of the things, but you hold on to the things that mean something to you. Like, I mean, if I get something from someone, like I got this from a friend, Action Force 2, which is in Europe is G.I. Joe. Got this from Tristan, who I co-host Video Game Bullshit with. They said, this is for the ZX Spectrum. I don't even have a ZX Spectrum. But
packaging's awesome.
I mean, it's a cassette tape game. But it's like literally a badass G.I. Joe. And he said it to me now. So like that's the stuff that I will hold on to because somebody sent it to me.
Yeah.
You know, there's a story behind it. Whereas not something I just like bought off eBay or found at a game store for myself.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that was one of the things that I started getting in when I was collecting. Was I was starting to get that bug that you know, the game hunting and then doing this and going to thrift stores, and it was great. It was a lot of fun, but you know, the well dried up after a while, and then the games were getting so expensive, and I was just like, you know, some people ask me like, do I regret selling my collection? The only thing I regret is not selling it a couple of years after.
True story.
Oh my God, dude. I would have made like I made really good money back then. I would have made even better money. But now, you know, I've more focused on, like you said, nostalgia and just games that I really want physically. Like, you know, we're going to talk about Shadow Warrior Reborn and talk about that. I had to get a physical of it, you know, because it was there. And you know what's weird is it was actually the PS5.
It's not Shadow Warrior. It's Shadow of the Ninja.
Shadow Warrior. What?
Just like I think earlier was we're also going to talk about Iron Meat. You called it Iron Steaks in a text, which I was like, that's amazing. That's a pun. Iron Steaks because it is meat.
Iron Steak sounds pretty cool though. Like
flat iron steaks. You gotta make sure you render off the fat of the iron steaks.
Oh yeah. Start to talk about meat, but yeah, like yeah, I lost my train of thought. You were talking about steaks.
Well, you were talking about Shadow the Ninja Reborn, getting it for the PS5, and
yeah, it was cheaper than the Switch version, like substantially cheaper. I'm like, what the hell? That's weird. So I got the PS5 version, but I like
Switch tax.
Yeah, that's definitely what it has to be. Definitely.
Wait till we talk my the gaming setups here in this episode because the way I have my setups is different. Very, very different. And like being a physical collector, it's almost sacrilegious. I love it.
Oh, that makes it even better. Makes it even better.
Which, I mean, technically we could transition to that before we talk our interests in video games and stuff. Because we could talk about that in a future episode. Because these episodes will get long if we talk about all the things.
Exactly.
So like gaming setups was one of our main things. Is like, okay, so what is our background and like indie games in general? It's just we love them, like that's given. But
yeah,
also like working on a cool way to preserve our thoughts on them. And you had mentioned something too before I get off of that train of thought is the historical aspect of listening to old podcasts, and you talked about all gen gamers, right? Now you think about this. Even a podcast is a piece in a time of history. You don't realize it's a thing, but Video Game Bullshit, I started with my cousin Kyle. Last year, he passed away. And so I have 100+ episodes and live panels and stuff of our history together, talking about our love of video games, something I will always have with my cousin who tragically passed at his 40th birthday. Like he was not sick or anything. It's just, it happened. It was a freak accident. It sucks. But I have all these amazing memories with him. And a giant house collection that I have in a second storage unit now too, that I have to, guys, I am a nostalgic collector. So now I have an entire nostalgic storage unit of all of his stuff that I gotta, I want to display it all.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun to do from a tribute to him perspective, but not something I would ever wish on anyone, because you're losing like one of your best friends, and it's just like a thing. But I have these episodes that are preserved, so that is a good thing. Is like this right here will also be preserved, and I have no problem talking about things that happen too. So like something that is absolutely tragic, but it's a reality of life. It might be the army in me, because like I've been to war, I've done all the crazy stuff too. But it's, it's one of those things where I try to look at it from a preservation perspective. How can we maximize it? And even the indie gaming, this whole entourage of, this whole thing that we're doing, it's evergreen content is what it's called from a creation perspective. So I don't talk about it from a perspective of quote unquote money making opportunities. I'm more like, okay, so this is something my daughter will have. Mm-hmm. My daughter's right now 12. Well, when my time has passed, my daughter has 30 plus books that she has access to that she can sell if it takes off. She has them. She would have this too. She would have the DVDs, the Blu-rays. She'll have the books. She'll have whatever. She can distribute it if she would like to. If she doesn't want to, she doesn't have to. But she has that opportunity, and it's always there, and it's always out there for her.
Yeah, and I mean, that's like, that reminds me, like, I have a video on my YouTube channel where I did the midnight release for Halo 4. Mm-hmm. And, what's really funny about that video was, it was like my third or fourth video I ever made. And I was just like trying to interview like just people standing in line for Halo. And, I was thinking when going into it that I was like, I might run into some people that don't really want to talk, but there's bound to be somebody that's going to be as enthusiastic and be like, oh man, Halo, let's talk about it. It was like pulling teeth trying to talk to people. And then the people I did talk to, like, I was awkward, they were awkward. And I come back and I watch it, and it's funny, but the kind of dark side to it is that was like shortly before my dad passed away.
Wow.
Yeah. But the thing is, my dad had a big background in broadcasting and radio and music, and a lot of that's kind of been inherited in my interest. And I remember, I was sitting there thinking, I was doing this Halo 4 midnight release, and I was sitting there thinking, I'm like, my dad would have been like, go out there and do that. Like this is how you do it, So that was like a definite tribute to him. But I can watch that video and I can like cringe at myself, but also think about where I was at that time, feeling that certain way. And that's how you can feel about podcasts as well. It's really interesting, because listening to those old episodes of All Gene Gamers and then talk about the PS3 and Xbox 360, I was like, man, I remember this. I remember where I was when this happened. It's really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I always regret too, like, I always had the idea of doing vlogs, like when I do my travels, going to conventions, because there was one year I did 13 conventions as a guest and panels. And I always thought about, like, I never had the quality like camera like on a phone, or the lapel microphones that we have now, that just are outstanding. Like now that I don't have the time this year, I can't go to really any conventions. Now it's like I don't have the opportunity. Wow.
Yeah.
But it's like I would have loved to have done it back in the day. I think we're going to transition to talk about our gaming setups and how we currently game. And I know I'm different. I think you do more of the traditional, or like, how do you currently game?
Mostly on consoles and emulation, like the mini PC. I have a Raspberry Pi. Yeah, like what now?
Like, what do? You use a Raspberry Pi? Like, how do you game?
I usually for retro I use my mini PC, but I have a Raspberry Pi 3 hooked up to a CRT that I also play. Okay. Like when I want to feel that real retro feel. I'll be like, man, I want to play it on this CRT that I got for my job. I want to play it on there, and it just looks so nice. Looks really, really cool.
So the Raspberry Pi, because the Raspberry Pis that I usually use is HDMI. So is your CRT HDMI compatible, or how does that work?
It's it's got HDMI, but it's also got AV because it's a Pi 3. I don't know if the newer Pis or some Pis don't have AV out, but this one did. So the challenging thing though is like finding the right cable that's compatible with the Pi 3. Because sometimes when you're like, because it has to be a certain like prong, they said the best way to look it up is like look for like Sony camcorder cable. Like that was the kind of cable they use. And you have to actually, when you're putting it in, you put the red where the yellow is and vice versa to get it working. But it works great. The only issue that I have is I'm using a Pi image that someone had made that was like specifically for the CRT. And, I know a little bit about Pis, and I've tried to like add more ROMs and to get the other emulators working. But for some reason, I don't know if it's because it's a custom script they wrote that those are not able to go in. I don't know. I'm going to figure it out, or just message the guy like, hey, man, I want to add Sega CD to this because I really want to play Lords of Thunder on the CRT. I want to play. I want to play Snatcher on the CRT. That would be a lot of fun.
Snatcher.
Yeah, let me play some Snatcher. But yeah, I like to do that. And then with the mini PC,
what type of mini PC do you have?
Oh man, it's a very cheap one. I got it for like $150 on Amazon.
Yeah,
but I have it running Bonacera. I have it running that, and it for some reason I guess because that front end like runs everything, so it puts less strain on like older PCs. I think that's the reason why a lot of people will get like those office PCs from like the early 2000s or something like that, old Dells. They're like, oh man, I can get this Dell to run like PS3 running Bonacera, and it's madness. So I have Bonacera through it, and it allows me to play like all the retro. And what I really like about it, as opposed to a Pi 3, is it allows me to play like N64 really well, Sega Saturn, PS2, OG Xbox, Dreamcast, even 3DS. I can play 3DS on it. So
nice. Yeah, I mean, I literally buy my daughter mini PCs. I mean, she's 12 right now. At the time of this recording, she's about to be 13. But like, we literally buy her mini PCs, and then it's like $150, and then she's playing Roblox on it and doing her school. She does online school.
That's what I have a nephew that's around the same age. He's I think he's turning 13 in a couple months, but around the same thing because he's also really into gaming, and now he's like into the Minecraft side of gaming. So he's sitting there playing it on the Switch. He started playing on his Xbox One. And then he was like telling his mom, my sister, he was like, yeah, I really want to like do more mods. I need to get a PC so I can do mods. And I told her, I'm like, you need to get him a mini PC. Because at first she was like, what kind of good gaming laptop should I get? I'm like, gaming laptops, they're worthless. Like, don't waste your money on them. Like, don't get a laptop. Get that mini PC, because I mean, it is amazing how much horsepower they have in those little things, and they're cheap. And if you buy them around like the school season when school's starting back or something like that, or after like spring break, or as of we're recording this, it's going to be Prime Day, like on the 8th and 9th of October. You can get some really good deals. So I got that mini PC that was normally like $220. I got it for like $150. But yeah, I love it. I have it synced up to a PS4 controller and it's stuff.
So I am a tinkerer. So my stuff is crazy what I do, but it's super streamlined and super interesting. And it's how I play certain things. As I mentioned, been collecting for like 30 years, but I don't have anything with me. My OCD nature is I always wanted to have the ability play every game. That was always my thing. I wanted to be able to play. So if I want to play Super Mario 3, I want to have a Nintendo setup. However, because I had to move, I can't bring all my Nintendo cartridges. I can't bring all my stuff. So I started to look into the ways to properly emulate But I am a huge advocate now of FPGA, if you're familiar with the term. So it's the fully programmable array. Probably said that wrong, but it is FPGA basically emulates the hardware on PCs and on different hardware. So like
It's amazing.
example, like mini items. So the first and foremost is when I play retro games, I use this. This is the Analog Pocket. The Analog Pocket though has cores on here for FPGA, so you can basically play any handheld, but also any retro console. So earlier, they're like 16-bit and earlier, you can play all of them, which includes like even PC Engine Turbo CDs on here. You can play them on here.
Good, great stuff.
And this open FPGA format here, there are users, which like I'm on and I subscribe to a Patreon to support them, that make FPGA arcade ports of games perfectly. So they just did the Simpsons arcade, Turtles arcade, but you can play them perfectly on the Analog Pocket. The thing is, the Analog Pocket also comes with a dock. So you can put this in the dock just like a Switch and play it on a television with Bluetooth with 4 players. So you don't just have to play it like a Game Boy. And obviously I have a EverDrive Game Boy in the back of this, which I ironically don't need because the FPGA on here already supports the ROMs. But I still have my collection of my nostalgic Game Boy games and things. But that's how I literally play this. And my controller I have hooked up to it is typically an 8-bit DOE Super Nintendo version, the SN30 Pro.
Love that controller.
And I have a wireless version as well to play 2-player stuff, but I use the wired.
8-bit DOE just makes such great controllers. I like their MG30.
I mean, my clicky clacky keyboard is 8-bit DOE. That was a Christmas present from the wife. I also have a different year, I got the arcade stick for the 8-bit DOE.
Oh, that's right.
So I actually, which is right down here, the 8-bit DOE. This thing's a little hefty because it actually has a metal plate in the bottom. This is the 8-bit DOE.
That's like I've always wanted to get that, especially for some of the like those shmups on the Switch. Like,
yeah,
it's good
stuff. And you think about it, it's compatible with my Analog Pocket. So when I'm playing the arcade games, I could literally play it with an arcade stick. So I can play it like I'm in the arcade, but I can sit there and play it in my lap and not the stand, which is great. But that's how I currently retro game. Now, here's the thing. It's FPGA. I tested out on Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. It plays flawlessly. There's no lag because I can do world record times on some of the boxers and Punch-Out. So I use that as my lag test, basically, is can I play it real fast? So I'm like now, am I converted? Because I really don't need to play consoles if FPGA emulates it pretty accurately and even have a light gun adapter now that plays it on CCVs. So it's like I'm pretty good. So that's how I do retro. But the thing is that isn't how I play everything. And the other thing is that there are multiple ways that I can do or have done indie games, because this is the Indie Games podcast. So we're going to talk more modern and indie. So one of the things is you mentioned Batocera and Raspberry Pis. There are these things now, which I was locating. This is a hard drive that you just buy on Amazon. This one is 12 terabytes. This is everything. All the fucking things are on here. So you wanted Sega CD, it's on here. And literally, you plug this into any laptop, any computer, it will run. Now, how I know this isn't an authorized thing on Amazon, it is insane because it has Switch games on it. It has modern games on it. It has everything on it. And my thing is I don't promote piracy of modern games at all. Because I want to support the indie game developers. So while these things are great, it's a gray area because if you're not supporting indie game developers, they will continue to make indie games, and then we all lose in the future because people are getting demotivated when in reality, I'd rather give them the couple bucks on Steam so they know that I love what they do.
Because I think one of the things that draws us, I can say particularly about indie, is the indie developers have that drive. They have that creativity. They're like me and you, like we're very similar. And when I was getting into the whole reviewing realm of YouTubing and game reviews, the indies and the Switch was hot at the time. And I met so many great game developers over the years of indie games that I was like, man, this is freaking awesome. And then like you talk to them, and they're just like, somebody you'd have a beer with. They're just like immensely talented and it can like create a game that, makes you feel like you're back in your childhood because they also live those moments. So, I mean, like I think about that and I'm like, why would you want to pirate that? Like, why would you want to just like nip that out? I love emulation, especially like old arcade games and, stuff that's not accessible everywhere. But yeah, like indie games, nah, man, I can't do that. Can't do it.
So, transitioning into how I game currently, we had mentioned a little bit ago, Steam Deck. So, the Steam Deck is how I started. Playing it handheld. There is a Steam Deck dock, which I have, but I never play my Steam Deck docked on the TV. I always played in handheld. But I literally have mine loaded up with about 800, 900 indie games on it right now, installed on it.
Well, it's like I remember when we were like talking about doing the show, and I'm like, this show's gonna make me buy a Steam Deck, and it's funny because I'm thinking about that, and I'm thinking about you being like, well, this is how I started.
This is how I started. This isn't my final form, Xander. It's not my final form.
What bigger warning do you need, Xander? This is how it begins.
This is how it begins. Now, the Steam Deck is great for indie games, but there is some limitations. When you want to play some of the more modern stuff, it will be scaled back graphics quality and things. And me being a retro gamer, I typically don't care about quality as long as it's not like choppy. The gameplay works fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're playing it on a small screen anyway,
Exactly. Now Steam is really great about optimizing things for the deck. And sometimes it plays better than on a damn PC, a max PC. Sometimes it'll play better on deck. But I use my Steam Deck now exclusively for retro style indie titles. So anything essentially under or around 1 gigabyte or lower for an install size, I will play on my deck. Which is why I have like 800 freaking games.
And that's kind of how I would go into it, to be honest. I mean, there is definitely some cool emulation stuff on the deck that you can do. No.
There are games that we will talk about that are 4 to 5 gigabytes that are indie that are amazing too, and we don't want to pass up on them. But that's how I use my more modern option. But where it progressed to my sickness of indie. But the Steam Deck though is great. I literally had this thing called Decky Loader on it, which was my game-changing application that I love. So you can sideload other types of applications on the deck that aren't necessarily made by Steam, but made by fans. And in the Steam Deck, you can go to like desktop mode, which it's a Linux-based machine, so it's not Windows.
Right.
But anyways, you do the Decky Loader. It does stuff like it can change the vibrancy of the screen, which the new Steam OS does have this, but back when it first came out, so it makes it look like an OLED, even though the original Steam Deck wasn't. Because there's the second version of the Steam is an OLED, the Steam Deck, but the first version, which is what I have, and I haven't upgraded because of my second option. But it does stuff like that. What it has that I absolutely use is you can change the way your Steam Deck and your Steam OS looks, so you can like make it look like a Switch if you want to, or I have it like so it's rounded corners. Some of the developers' artwork is big. Like I did some really cool stuff, but it has this other thing that Steam doesn't have, nothing has but the Decky Loader randomizer. So I have everything broken down into collections. Because I decided I was going to make a book years ago, I have stuff into my indie games into folders. So if I want to play a random Metroidvania game, I go, and it hits up in my 100 games and gives me a random game to play. It is
cool.
So effing cool. It's just like great. using coin ops or Batacera and just hitting the random button.
Yeah.
It's such a cool thing. And I love doing it and then just playing, all right, this is the random game. that we're going to play now. And we were doing that for like bullshit homework. We're gonna get bullshit. I hit the random button. Like, here's what we're playing for bullshit homework. Like, it was super freaking cool. So that's a game changer. Because it's not official, not made by Steam. So when they make an update of the OS, like they push out an update for it, sometimes it breaks things in Decky Loader, and you have to wait for them to fix that and make it compatible. But that's with any type of emulation or any type of mods, and you have to wait for them to fix that stuff. Which is sad, but it's like right now the randomizer isn't working, so I can't even if I want to do 10 random indie games I have in my backlog for the channel. Right now I can't do it, but I have so many new games that it's.
I mean, and all modding and emulation aside, just the handheld itself running Steam and just having that access to indie games, because one of the games we're going to be talking about is not on consoles. And honestly, I didn't know about it until you mentioned it. And I'm sitting here playing it, and I'm like, wow, as someone who plays a lot on home consoles like Switch and PS5 and stuff like that, I don't do a whole lot on Steam. Made me realize, I'm missing out on a whole, playing mountains of games I haven't.
You're missing out on an infinity, and it's insane. And the Steam Deck was the game changer. But the way I currently do stuff is even crazier, and it's opened up a whole nother world for me. And PC gaming to me is one of the best pieces. Now, I definitely still play Nintendo Switch. I mean, I got my Zelda here. I'm playing Zelda. The new Zelda, when we play as Zelda.
Echoes of Wisdom. So good.
Yes. I love it. It's amazing. It's like Link to the Past, but you play as Zelda and you get to make stuff. It's
like to me it feels like a classic Zelda with a little bit of Tears of the Kingdom spice with its creativity, with its puzzle aspects, which is great.
And it's non-linear, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Non-linear. Because I'm literally I decided when I played it that I'm not going to follow the story. I just started wandering. I've opened up the map and just doing the Tears of the Kingdom thing. And eventually I got to a part where, because when you copy abilities and stuff, you can only do so many because you get these notches. I can't even, the guys I'm beating now, I can't even copy. I'm too underpowered. So I'm okay, I should probably go to a dungeon now.
Which the dungeons are so good.
Yeah,
Zelda. It's classic Zelda.
And so there are games though on Steam that these developers have taken inspiration from Zelda and have made them, and it's insane. And there's thousands of these.
Yes.
Per genre. It's insane. So I have alluded to it a bunch. Now let me talk to you about the next level beyond Steam Deck. And to me, it's a perfect pairing if you do okay, all my indie stuff is going to be on the deck, and especially with a potential successor, Steam Deck 2, coming out, the original Steam Deck might be affordable to the point where if you don't need the OLED, maybe you can get it affordably now. Because the original Steam Deck's on sale usually a lot now.
It's not bad.
It's not bad
at all.
But the next one is these Steam Deck clones, aka but not these. And you mentioned mini PC and gaming PCs, but this is a gaming PC handheld that's overpowered. And so how I play things now is, and this went off on my wife decided she was just going to buy it for me for, I think it was last year for Christmas or something, the Lenovo Legion Go. So I have a, Legion laptops are insane. The Lenovo Legion Go is a laptop, a high-spec laptop-based handheld, and it's literally sitting there. That's why I said this keeps on going off and on. I have it connected to my monitor. It is my PC. It is Windows 10.
Oh, that's great.
And it has its own backbone, but in reality, with Steam on it, Steam has big picture mode. You can play everything, but then you can play anything on Windows. So if I want to sit here and play the indie fan games, I can play those on the Lenovo in portable mode. And why I said it's game changing is there are programs out there now that you can mod games. And so if you don't have the time, like some of us do with full-time jobs, to put in 100,000 hours to master the gameplay of a game, you can literally throw on mods and increase the XP. And so you can unlock stuff faster. And that's literally what I'm using it for. So like on some of these games with unlockables, like if it supports it in one of these mod programs, you can literally unlock stuff in it. And Xbox has moved to PC Game Pass. So I have Microsoft Game Pass on the Lenovo Legion Go. So I get all the free games from there. I do the Humble bundle every month. So there's this Humble choice that you get free games, 4 or 5 free, like $60 games for like $14 a month.
Yeah.
They're all, you get to keep them forever. They don't go away when you stop. You get the licenses for the game. So I do that every month. And then on top of it, anything that you want to play on the actual Windows machine, you can play. Like, I don't know if you played like Flash games back in the day, but there's an application that is on the PC that allows you to play Flash games. It's called Flashpoint. I had to look at it on my desktop.
Freaking helicopter game.
But like,
helicopter game.
That's what I'm saying. Like, all of those games are on Flashpoint. So you go to Flashpoint, there's 2,000 games on it from Flash games. Every game is like, people have preserved these games in this, but I had to play that on my Lenovo Legion Go. It also has a dock and is Bluetooth compatible. And I can literally record, like we recorded our interview on my Lenovo Legion Go for Video Game Bullshit. Like, it's a PC. So to me, that is the final form of how I currently game, because the Lenovo Legion Go I have terabytes on it. And so essentially I play Elden Ring on it. And it's max specs and plays great. I'm playing the new Star Wars game, Fallen Jedi. And like, it's playing everything on it that I want to play. And it's perfect for indie games too, because there's a lot of times that a developer will send me a beta copy to test, and I can't play it on the Steam Deck because Steam has to go through you have to do a wrapper, like you have to use this Proton emulator type thing to get it to run on the native Linux backend. Whereas on this, it's just PC, so I can literally play it. And then you have the slew of every emulator ever that just natively works in a Windows machine, works on this. And I can edit on it. I can edit videos on it. I can do my books on it. It's a Windows PC. So
great.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's like very similar to like the ROG Ally. That was another one.
It's the Rogue Ally is a little less powered version of the Legion Go.
Yeah, that one's a beast.
Now, the one thing to be wary of is that all of these are PC, so they update all the time. So like this in 2025, there'll be something newer that'll be cooler. You just got to be careful that it gets the support and everything. For me, this one has detachable Joy-Cons.
Yeah.
So like I could literally take it and the detachable Joy-Con. This one also has the one Joy-Con has like a little RF thing. I could put it on there and play it as a mouse to play like Doom and stuff.
Cool.
Too. And and of course, because it's Bluetooth, I literally have a mouse and keyboard. I mean, I have the 8BitDo stuff that I use. Hell, my mouse is an 8BitDo. That's what I use. But that is my final form, as I use the Analog Pocket for retro. So I don't put any emulation or anything on my Steam Deck, because Steam definitely has emulation support.
Yeah.
Like, it has CoinOps on there. You could put a Pi image type thing in CoinOps and play it on the Steam Deck, and you can literally just play all the arcade stuff there. Like, Steam Deck works great for everything too, but that's just how I do it to save on spaces. All my emulation goes here, retro, and then all the the 64 and above up to about PlayStation 3 goes on my Steam Deck, and all indie titles that I will install from Steam. And then everything modern goes on my Lenovo Legion Go, as well as any retro stuff that I just happen to want to play with like mods or something like that, just to ease of use to tackle my backlog. Because if I'm going to sit there and try to be high and mighty, like I'll never use mods for stuff, but it's like, but then my backlog is thousands of games. Like, what good should I do? I just play that mod.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you want to just enjoy the games. You want to get your money's worth.
And I'm not setting records. I'm not trying to time that. Like, I don't care about any of that. I care about playing fun stuff and supporting developers. And then I support the community. So there's like the program I use is called WeMod on the Lenovo Legion Go. And I supported it by doing the subscription or whatever. Like, so that we support that community as well. So that way that keeps that alive. Just like I use for the Analog Pocket, there's people that make the FPGA, support them on Patreon. Like, support your creators. That's the best thing.
Because there's a lot of talented people out there, that's for sure. It's insane.
Yeah.
It's
really
insane.
So here's the $1 million collector question then is like, now I have the opportunity to play everything. I can play everything ever on these 3 devices, mainly in handheld. I could literally lay on the couch and play them. I could put them on the TV and play them with friends. Like, what is the reason outside of just the CRT scan lines, for retro? What is the reason for me to go back to playing the legit cartridges outside of just wanting to have it feel like it did back in the day? Because you got to think about the space requirements and then the maintenance required to keep the old tech going, as well as like the hardware required to get it to play right on this stuff. Like there's tons. Like, I remember trying to have every console connected to a television. It was near impossible.
Oh my God.
Near impossible.
The amount of money I spent in Radio Shack is unbelievable.
Exactly. And it's like, I just remember like doing all, and then you're trying to do it to a modern TV and trying to use the different types of the different boxes to make sure, like the upscalers and all that. It was like, it's crazy.
It becomes, in my opinion, I feel like it becomes a hobby within itself.
Oh, it is.
Because like a lot of people that I know that are like really into CRT and like CRT televisions and retro gaming, they're also like really into getting like the most crisp, like pixelated picture, like and it's very interesting. It almost goes into like the record mentality of like the folks that listen to the music and they have like the really nice speakers, it becomes like a whole aesthetic at that point. And I think that's the thing.
And I will tell you, there is one major reason to play the originals, but it's you don't want the crispy. Like, I want to play it like I played back in the day, because when they created the games for the NES, the Super Nintendo, the PlayStation, they created it with scan lines and CRT, how it draws the scan lines in mind, which actually blends those crisp pixels to make it look almost 3D. If you play Donkey Kong Country in emulation with no CRT scan lines on it, it looks a little mucky. But if you played on a CRT, it looks like 3D because they literally created the pixels to take that CRT blending in mind. It's the same thing with all the PlayStation and N64 type of games, is that they created those polygonal games with that in mind, so it kind of rounds out those polygons.
That's why, like, no matter what you try to play, like PS1 games, like they just don't look right on like HD televisions. Like, it's such a weird thing, but you see it on CRT and you're like, oh man, this looks great. Like,
it's because of
it's
because of that's how they literally programmed the games back in the day. They had that in mind because they knew that was the medium they were programming for. Which is ironic when you see, and you're going to see this a lot as we talk through these games in the Indie Credible podcast. There we go. As we talk about stuff on the podcast, is like they'll create, like these indie developers, a CRT replica, but then they're not programming the game inherently to take advantage graphically of what a CRT would do to the pixels.
Right.
And then it's like, did they create Mario 3 with for us to be able to play the game with pixel graphics, or did they do it with the blending in mind? Is that the way that the developers wanted us to play it? Like, what was their methodology? You know what I mean? So it's
exactly
a lot of rabbit holes we could go on when talking about indie and retro and stuff like that. And so to me, when an indie game developer makes a retro-inspired game and adds the CRT function stuff, to me, that's exactly how they wanted it to look. That is perfect for me, because it's like, okay, so that's how they programmed the game. That's how they would like us to experience this. That's part of their experience. And that there's no right or wrong way. Just like there's no right or wrong way to play games. There's no right or wrong way to enjoy yourself. is like there's really no right or wrong way to do even the indie stuff.
Yeah.
It would be interesting though to plug in one of my gaming rigs to a CRT and see how like these Steam games look.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because one of the things that I really enjoy is like, you got like folks that make like their own like little NES games using like the NES Maker and stuff. And then some people make some really great things. And like what's great is that they can send me the ROM and I can put it on my Raspberry Pi and I can run it through the CRT. And I'm like, yeah, I'm playing your game on a CRT television. And it's really, really cool. Like I really like that.
But did that indie NES Maker developer make it with the CRT in mind? That's always the question I have, because like when they made it, you're making it in a monitor in HD, so you're doing the pixel by pixel. But like some developers that do NESmaker, they definitely do. And I go way back with even the creator of NESmaker. Like we were next to each other at one of our first conventions. I may have inherently been sitting there playing stuff and gave ideas like, hey.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah.
When he was doing just a level maker for Mystic Searches. And I'm like, hey, Joe, what if you can make anything out of this? Like, you can make your own game, huh? Like, that dude's a mad scientist. That dude's a mad scientist. Yeah. Like, he's so good. I'm a bad instigator when it comes. I think you already alluded to it. I think we should talk about Shadow of the Ninja Reborn and your thoughts and play it. And how much did you play? How much did I play? I didn't play a ton, so I want to say I played like 1 or 2 levels of Shadow of the Ninja Reborn. To put things into perspective, and this is off the top of my head, I'm not reading the script or anything, but this is a published game and developed game by Natsume and Atari. And Natsume is the original creators or publishers of Shadow of the Ninja for the NES. Shadow of the Ninja was cool because it was in the era of a Ninja Gaiden. You have these ninjas that you get to play as, and it's 2-player co-op on the NES. 2-player co-op Ninja Gaiden. Like, the coolest thing ever. You'd be able to change up your weapons from a sword to ninja stars, and then you have this grappling hook, and you could literally, with collecting the icons, could switch it out. And it's notoriously easy as shit. That's the best part. It was easy as hell on the NES. Like, I could literally run through that whole game, whereas Ninja Gaiden kicks your ass. And I call it Ninja Gaiden, not Ninja Gaiden, like East Coasters. But basically, that was why I loved Shadow of the Ninja, and it was one of the first CIB games I found when I started recollecting my nostalgia after I got my games back after I deployed. I got all my games back as a kid. I get it because when you deploy in the army or go overseas, all your stuff goes into storage. Just like all my stuff right now is in storage. And so all the stuff goes in storage. I got it all back when I went to my next unit, which was in Florida, which was awesome. But I found at a flea market Shadow of the Ninja CIB, which was amazing. So long story short, though, I played Reborn for a couple of levels. And how far did you play before I go into thoughts?
I played about 3 levels. I know there's only 6 levels, but I played about 3.
Okay. So from a graphic perspective, you have it, the original was 8-bit. This is like if it was ported over a little bit beyond the Super Nintendo, like 16-bit graphics.
Yeah.
Music's overhauled. Is it co-op? Because I didn't really check if it was.
Yeah, it is.
I think it is. It is. Because I know you get to choose between Hayate and Kayade. I don't know how to really say their names, but I know you can choose between those 2 characters when you play. And I think they control basically the same, or do they control different in this game? I think they might control different in this game.
Yeah, I think the female's a little faster. I enjoyed playing as her a little bit more. I felt like I had a little bit more oomph.
Okay. Now, that being said, this game is not a 1-for-1 remake, even though there are a lot of similarities. It is much more challenging.
Yes.
Than the original. Much more. I died a few times and I'm like, oh crap, I've never died in Shadow of the Ninja like this.
Yeah.
Why?
I was about to say that was one of the things that kind of struck me was when I was playing it, and I like as fast as I died, I'm like, wait. Like, hold up for a second. I just remember the first boss. The first boss was like kicking my ass at first. I'm like, what is wrong with me? And then But it's that kind of challenge where it's like it's not stupidly difficult, but it's that good retro challenge where like when you screw up, you're like, all right, I know why I screwed up. I need to calm down. Need to kind of watch the character patterns, because that's really all it is like when he would like do a certain animation, that's when you jump.
Yeah.
Once you figure out, it's a lot easier.
And me using my guilty now as I played in the NES game, I just used to just go and slash at him real fast.
Yeah.
You could take him. In the original. This one, you can't take him. So, I mean, I think it was simple as like he just goes like and then he charges that, you just jump over him every time. Like hit him a couple times. Like it was
a aha.
Very easy. Yeah.
Once I was like, aha, okay, now what I'm supposed to do, yeah.
And I feel like this game too, as it is more challenging. It's not hard, but it's more challenging. I feel like it's just one where if you put a little time into it, not a ton, but a little time into it, you could absolutely get through. Like it's like I'll play it a couple times, I'll die a few times. If you get a game over, do you start at the last level that you died on, or do you have to start the game over?
No, yeah. If you die, you start back at the level, which is good.
Okay. Perfect.
I was about to say that is one good thing because when you die and you had to start over again, like I would hate it if you had to start all the way at the very beginning. But I believe that it saves each stage, so when you go back in, you can actually choose what stage to go to.
Perfect.
That's really cool.
No, that is dope. Yeah, because like I like when they do those type of things because you got a little bit of a challenging game, but then you can start at that level. So then in reality, you just have to be able to beat the level. I mean, that's pretty cool. It makes me want to go back and play because I'm at level 2 or 3 now, I think. Maybe I'm on 2. I only got to play it for a little bit because, working the full week, I knocked into it a little bit. And I mean, I blamed Zelda because I was playing a shit ton of Zelda last weekend. That was my fault. But I jumped in because I'm like, oh, I want to be able to at least talk about some fun experiences with the game. And I've already covered and reviewed this for the Indie Gaming Gems. Like I've covered the game and wrote my review on it.
And I definitely had to get it. I had to get the physical of it because I have the other 2 games that were released, the Pocky and Rocky remake and the Ninja Saviors, like Return of the Ninja Warriors, like that one.
Yeah. Well, and that was the weird thing, and I think we had talked about this when we did the interview, was like I used to do the Switchman Playcast, every review, every game that's coming out, used to follow all the things. I didn't even know this game was coming out. I didn't know it was in development. And all of a sudden they're like, oh yeah, this thing is released, and I'm like, nowhere.
Yeah.
I'm like, hell yeah. And it's in my wheelhouse. I love these type of games. Like I love this series. I have a nostalgia for it, and I would have 100% like wanted to pre-order this game, and of course bought the physical and got it in.
What I like about these remakes too is sometimes it's always kind of a gamble too, because some of these remakes, like they come out and you get it and you're like, oh, that wasn't too good, wasn't as good, but this one definitely was. It was palatable. Like it wasn't like super amazing, but then again, like I didn't think the one on the NES was super amazing. I loved it. I wasn't like, oh my god, but it's so good. Yeah,
the one on the NES isn't covered a ton, but I have a love for it just because my own
it's by all means not a bad game. It's a lot of fun. So good.
It might be a per se hidden gem on the NES, but like and the thing is, because this is released in the end of the Switch's life cycle, I say that because like I'm on the publishing side and nothing's been officially announced by Nintendo on a full successor. Like they said one's coming now, but like there's still been it's all perspective on when.
Yeah.
They haven't even given dev kits to the third party publishers yet. They've only given it to the big, I call them the second party, your Konami, your big ones. They've been developing stuff, like the big developers, but all the indie guys, like we haven't gotten any type of indicator yet still. Because once we do, that stuff will get out there.
Yeah.
So it's still all perspective, but this is, I would still call it, we're at the end of the Switch's life cycle. So these type of games are going to go under the radar, especially for physical.
And most of the time they're cheap. They're not like full retail games. Like at the most, maybe you're spending $40 at the most.
Yeah. Exactly. That's our price. That's our price point for one we do them on premium. It's $40.
Yeah, that's perfect. And most of the time, the packaging is like really, really good. Like the Like this one here had the reversible cover and the colored manual. It's like it's the little things that like I love it when I'm buying the physical, like especially in indie that has like
And
feel.
correct me if I'm wrong. This is strictly limited and in games that did this.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they typically their claim to fame is they do a lot of the Japanese license stuff. So I'm pretty sure they did all three of the games you had mentioned. Is they'll do. They're both companies, but the strictly limited is like their collector's market, and then in is the stuff that goes and is distributed like a GameStop or a Walmart. And it's like if they do a collector's edition, they'll even remove some of the games, which I don't understand that mentality because digital space, unless it puts it above a 4 gigabyte cartridge, there's no reason to limit digital. But they do more of like their collector's edition with content from strictly limited versus in is more bare bones.
Yeah.
You still get it manual usually, so
yeah,
it's pretty cool. But yeah, so definitely recommend. We could just do recommend or not recommend.
I recommend it. I mean,
definitely recommend.
I think the price is perfect. I mean, it's a game that you're either going to spend a couple hours on or maybe breeze through it depending on your eye coordination, and common sense.
And like a lot of the games that like I'm going to cover on the channel, the YouTube channel, as well as we'll cover on the podcast, probably won't have a physical at the time of us recording. This one does. And the other game, the Iron Stakes that we're going to talk about, has one on the way for sure. But I think that's also strictly limited if I'm not mistaken. Or no. It's somewhere. It's one of the European companies is doing that one, which might be that. But it's Shadow of the Ninja though, definitely a cool one.
Yeah.
Should we talk Iron Meat next?
Iron Meat. You won't call it Iron Steak?
Yeah, you texted me. I played Iron Steaks last night, and I'm like, oh, that's a pun right there. I didn't even correct you either. I just want to get.
I don't do it. Yeah, I've been playing that, and it's fun. It's fun. It's So
Iron Meat is because we got a little wallpaper on it, especially for visual our non-visual audience on podcast apps. Iron Meat is Contra, inspired by Contra. So it is a action platformer, heavy on the guns, heavy on constantly shooting. I mean, if you could have anything that is more similar to a Pro Protector Contra, this is it. Gory, bloody. And it's made by Retroware, who used to be Screen Wave Media, who also are the guys that do all the editing for the Angry Video Game Nerd. But Retroware is the company that's doing it. Premium has released 2 games from Retroware physically, Eagle Island Twist and Love 3. We are not did not get the contract for Iron Meat, even though I have been testing it for years. Also got to play it back at Too Many Games many, many years ago. They had it a demo at the convention where I initially played it. But we never, we talk about citing certain games and other games, and I think what they had said, because there's never any harsh feelings on any. There's so many games out there. There's thousands of games. And one thing about Premium is we go slow. We only do a couple games a quarter, like 2 to 3 games a quarter, maybe. I mean, we've released 20 games, and it's been 5 years. Like that's a legit thing. So it's no hard feelings, but I think the company that they signed with offered them some upfront stuff that would help fund their arcade adventure or something. So makes sense. But Iron Meat is a really cool Contra inspired game, and me playing it this last week because it just was released on digital was the first time I played the final package. So before, when I played the demo, I could change between all the different characters and all the different skins and all the different stuff, because what you can do in the game is you can change how your character looks. So you can change the head, the torso, the legs, or you can change the whole skin. And I think there's 2 unlocked at the beginning. After you beat a level, I think I unlocked a different character with a beret on, looked like Duke from G.I. Joe or something, which was cool. But I've only played through the first level so far, but I played the hell out of the demos with all the different levels that were to be had. One thing that they had done with the finalized version, though, is that levels are much, much, much larger and longer now. They're very long levels, and it's awesome. So to me, Iron Meat is what I wanted as a spiritual successor to Contra 3 The Alien Wars.
Yeah.
Contra Hardcore on the Genesis.
Yep. I mean, I would put it right up there with another indie I love, Blazing Chrome. I was playing
Blazing Chrome.
I was like, yep. I'm like, this is good. I mean, it hit all the beats. It was one of those games that hit all the beats, like even down to the jumping animation. It felt like I was playing Contra. It was almost like I was playing Contra with like a blood mod or something. I like that. I like the art style, like the grotesque, kind of fungus kind of people like from Last of Us, like those kind of characters were chasing you, and I like that. I'm like, this is cool.
Heavy metal soundtrack.
Oh yeah, the music's like obnoxiously metal. I'm love.
And the thing is when it's like that, it's not as memorable as a Contra, where there's like it's a very distinct soundtrack. Like the one thing I've noticed with a lot of those that do the overly complex songs is that they're not necessarily as memorable as like the little tunes.
Yeah,
blip it.
No, that's true.
And there are games that do it perfectly, because like we mentioned Shadow of the Ninja Reborn. The music on that was inspired off of the original and did it more modernized. This is its own soundtrack, and it sounds cool as shit. It's amazing, but like I can't hum the tone right now though.
Yeah, I can't. There's nothing I really remembered. Like, it's not like Vampire Killer,
Exactly, or Contra.
Yeah. Like that was one of the best things about the Contra Operation Galuga or whatever. It's like going to the retro music and you can switch it. You're like, yeah, this is Contra. That game was all right. It was fun.
And that's the one thing about following games now and the way I play indie is I actually haven't bought Contra Operation Galuga yet. Like I need to buy this.
Honestly, you're not missing much if you're playing the Iron Meat.
Iron Steaks. No.
like you heard me like kind of delay for a second there too. I was like, Iron.
But here's the crazy thing though. I have 3-4 others on my deck right now. There's a game, and I'll just throw it out there. Crush Borgs. Crush Borgs is a game that was released years ago, and it is another one just like Iron Meat, just like Blazing Chrome. It's just like that one too. And it's equally as fun. That one is pretty easy. It's easier to play. Like I think I got through it in my first playthrough, beat the whole game. But it was fun as shit. It reminded me exactly of playing the original Contra. Like there's so many that take inspiration. To me though, Iron Meat like takes it to a level of polish that's unlike some of the others. Like it is so polished. Pixel graphics are great. And I need to put it in more than 1 or 2 levels. Like we're not by any means reviewing games or previewing games here. Is we play it a little bit.
I was gonna say at least get to stage 3, because that's when you get on the little hover bike, and that's when you that's when you had that movement, and the game does have like a really nice refresh rate. Like everything's like crispy smooth. Like
now keep in mind, like I did play all of the levels but the demo. When I had the original, because I had a developer built, which I still have. And I played the speed bike level. It's so fun. It's the parallax scrolling on it.
Yeah.
So many freaking layers. It is really, really cool. And that's where I'm like, I can't sing the praises of that game enough to the where like 100% absolutely recommend playing Iron Meat. Support Retroware so that way, they keep on signing badass games, because, they're not the developers of the game, but they definitely are signing games that hit that quality margin. If they would have offered Iron Meat to premium, I'm sure the CEO would have signed it, which is, not me, but I'm sure they would have signed it in a heartbeat.
And they also have like a Castlevania style game coming out as well.
There's another one too. There's Simon Quest, which is based off of like Castlevania. There's another one that's based off of like Power Blade.
Ooh, that's right. Yes.
Mm-hmm. And now
you're talking about the Vice something. Is that what it's called?
It's not Vice Project Doom, because that's another.
That's another game.
Yeah, I have to look it up off the top of my head. I don't know off the top of my head. But again, like every indie game that comes out, like all the companies are likely testing it. So like we're testing it with premium along with other companies, I'm sure. And if we get the contract for these games, we will sign the games. Like to me, those are like no brainer. Like we kind of rate games as we do based off of quality and how well we think they will sell. So like an S tier would be if we sign Super Mario Brothers or Castlevania. An A tier is like something that we think is like an amazing game that would be a future gem. And those are absolutely A tier, maybe S tier games.
Yeah.
And so like those are no brainers to me to sign. It's just that will we, because, you know, they also, as a company, Retro know that, you know, we're the hipster artists in premium. Maybe we'll sign it, maybe we won't. I'm still trying to delay so I can think of the name of that game, and I just can't think of the name.
Yeah.
What is it called? Let me see if I can find it real quick. The one good thing about having this on my deck over here is I have the games over here. Let's do a little bit of live. Let's see if I actually have it in my deck here. Yeah, because there are a bunch of games coming out. Nope, I do not have it on here. But it is a spiritual. It is such a cool game, though. The other one we're talking about relating to, it is a spiritual successor like Power Blade. It is amazing.
Good stuff.
And the best part is like if we find something where it's like, well, I'll absolutely bring it up, and I'll let you know in the next episode what that game is.
Oh yeah,
for sure. So Iron Meat, great. Anything else you want to note about Iron Meat?
I mean, I think it's very accessible too. That's something I want to add in. I mean, because I know people personally that love these games, but they're kind of hard on themselves, and they're like, well, I'm not that good at those kind of games. I'm like, not
exactly.
And especially when I talk about like bullet hells, and they're like, oh, I don't know if I'm good at a bullet hell. I'm like, play this one, and they play it, and they're like, that was really good. And I feel like this is definitely one of those games because the difficulty, you can play it on easy. When you play it on easy, it's almost like putting in the 30-man code. And, Contra. So it's like the game itself hasn't like pushes difficulty. It's not like they're not holding your hand. They're just giving you more lives. And to me, it's no different than putting in the 30-man code in Contra on the NES. Like, if you still beat Contra on the NES, put in the 30-man code or whatever, starting out, you're still cool. Like, it's still awesome. Hell yeah. Good job.
You're just not speedrunning.
Yeah.
And because you allowed me to, I found the name of the other game. It is called Prison City. Prison City. And it is like a spiritual successor to Vice Project Doom, Power Blade, all the amazing games. Guy on the front's like holding the thing, and he's like got his patch on like Snake Plissken, and the game plays just like a classic NES game too. The developer of that game is so cool. He 100% knows like what we want. The other game we didn't mention that Retro has is Toxic Crusaders.
Oh, that's right. Oh my god, I can't wait to play that.
Dude,
no, wait.
I think it was made by like the same guys or some of the same team that worked on Turtles.
Yeah.
The one that now has its third or fourth physical release from Limited Run. The Ultimate Edition now.
It comes with like the action figures. It's crazy.
Which I think one of the other releases also came with some action figures. So it's like man. I mean, but the thing is, I'm not gonna lie, I don't blame them. Because like if I had the opportunity to release a Ninja Turtles game and then do another, I would do that too. It's
strike while the iron's hot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just don't like that they called it Ultimate Edition, because what if there's another DLC? Then it won't be the Ultimate Edition. So
exactly.
I call something else. Like do it 3, 4, 17 releases, because if people are buying it and it's worth it, like make them, dude. That's cool. And like I'm gonna get a version of the game. I got the Japanese version first because I knew that there was going to be more iterations.
Yeah. That's still
they had talked about wanting to make things complete on cart during their original company motto, but like people are still trying to hold them to that. And I'm like, but why are you holding they're not really indie anymore, but why are you holding a company to something that they talked about during their initial release? Like they evolve. They have Turtles. Like, of course they're going to release another version of Turtles. I would too.
Yeah.
And they're not even, they're they're bigger than these other big publishers. Like they're huge. So like they're fine. And they make cool stuff. All of it. I mean, are they quote unquote competition to premium? Sure, but I don't care. I like video games, man.
Exactly.
That don't bother me none. I'm still gonna do my hipster artist stuff. Like we can go down an indie rabbit hole with hipster shit. Like someday. Like crazy shit. Like I don't know. Like the way that I make items is like analog, man. You're talking vinyl and stuff. Like I have like right here, I'm pointing to it, a wooden canvas painting of a box art I did for a game release that I scanned in to use for the art instead of doing it digitally. I scanned in the vinyl, the wooden painting to use for a box like they did back in the day. Like that's hipster artist stuff, and like the appreciation of the way and the developers that have paved the way for these games is what it's all about. But yeah, so that was the tangent with Retroware and Iron Meats, is that they have a lot of other cool games too. So I want them to continue. So support Iron Meats so that way they continue to sign cool stuff. Like let's make sure, because I don't know if you know this, but there's multiple publishers, multiple communities. It's like if you were a YouTube channel and you were part of a community that helps publish YouTube channels, because that is a real thing. Yeah, it's the same deal for indie video games. Is like indie game developers, there are digital publishers. The digital publishers then market your stuff and make sure that they get in contact with physical publishers. So like my company, like we have the capacity to do digital publishing, but we focus on physical publishing.
Right.
But like a lot of the digital publishers do not do physical. They're not approved for physical. So they have to come to a premium to do the physical packaging design. Also, that is the most costly portion of the gaming market because it costs hundreds of thousands of dollars to publish one game.
Yeah.
So sales have to happen.
That's why, as much as I love physical, that was one of the biggest pet peeves when I would see indie games come out and I would like tell people about it. And like their first reaction would be like, is it going to have a physical? Like that would be their determination if they're going to get the game or not. And I'm like, dude, like if you want a physical, buy the game, because eventually
that is the double-edged sword right there.
Yeah.
Indie gaming is that people want it physically, but I will tell you, talking to a lot of indie developers and indie game publishers, they won't even approach a physical publisher like me unless it sells well.
Exactly.
There's one game that we released, and it was in Series 3, and I consider it a hidden gaming gem and a masterpiece, and it's called Phenotopia Awakening. And that game developer literally didn't even want to talk to us because the game didn't sell well. And we're like, no, we've played your game. We love your game. More people need to find out about it.
Yeah.
I showed off that trailer as part of because we do like premium directs, like Nintendo directs, at a gaming convention, and there was a standing applause after watching that trailer. Like that game is like a Metroidvania meets Zelda 2 maps, and it is a giant, like has steampunk in it and technology, but you start in a Zelda style. Like it is such a really awesome game, and it is sold out multiple times, like for our print runs, because like I'm not a limited company, like we produce high quality cool stuff. And so like, but we have like, it is out of stock now. Like, and the game developer doesn't want to publish it again because we have contracts with the developer. Like, the developer was the publisher because he couldn't get it a digital publisher because he thought his game sucked because nobody bought it. And I was like, nowhere in our initial conversation did we talk about how your game sold. I like the game. I like the quality of the game. It's like the stuff that we're going to cover here. Like, I've already handpicked games that I think look amazing and look.
Yeah.
And if there's something we need to be aware of, because there will be one on the horizon we're going to talk about on this episode, we'll let you know to beware.
Oh, yeah.
But
so, yeah, like UFO 50 was a game I had no idea even existed. You told me about it. And I wanted to say today, because I was off today, and that's all I've been doing all day is playing this game.
It?
I've been playing this. I have a notebook I have some notes up of like games that really stuck out. And let me tell you, because what's interesting about this game
It's
is,
my fault.
yeah. Well, like the thing about this game is it follows this like fictional game console. And that's what I really like about it. And even the fake game console has lore because these games have like fictitious
Crazy.
like dates that they were released. They even have sequels. Like it is insane. And you get 50 games. And you know, when you hear about a game that's gonna have like 50 games, you think these are gonna be like 50 like little snippy snap
Action
games.
52.
Yeah. You're like, oh, this is going to be like, you know, snappy little games to play. It's going to be like little fun. But no, some of these games are like games within themselves. Like,
Exactly. Well, so to set a little wallpaper for this this game, right? UFO 50 was created by a developer named Moss Mouth. The developer of Spelunky 1 and 2. Now you see, the developer of Spelunky 1 and 2 wanted to create a bunch of different and like challenge himself to create a bunch of different games in different genres. Little did we know we were going to get what you talked about, which is like its own lore, which is
yeah.
And the cool thing is like even upon starting the game, you get like this unique loading screen with like this Famicom disk system, aka like it looked like a Sharp NES TV style like console that shows up in a pixelated 8-bit style on the screen. It just it reminds me of like some like European console, like a computer console type of thing, like a ZX Spectrum or something like that, like a different PC based game.
You know what it made me think of, and this is going to be totally like left field, but you know what it made me think of? It made me actually think of the Happy Console Gamer movie. I don't know if you
Interesting. Yeah.
You remember like the whole thing, like they were trying to find that that console that was just like the best console ever. I cannot remember the name of it, but they the way they made it look, I got that feeling from like UFO 50 with a ZSL console. And it's almost like the same. Yeah, and it's almost the same way I feel about you almost when you get like those mystery bands, like go into music a little bit. Like when you had those mystery bands that have like certain members and the lore. You know, there's a backstory. Like I thought it was really interesting that you would go to the game and it would tell you, you know, what kind of genre this game would be, kind of give you an idea and a little backstory to not just the game itself, but maybe even the developers. Like there was this one game I think it was called like Barracoda or Barracoda or something like that. It was the very first game out of the 50.
That is Barbuta.
Yes.
It's one of the 5 that I played. I only played 5 of the 50.
Oh, okay.
And Barbuta, I wrote notes. I wrote my little bit of notes as I played each one. And I think it kind of started as like the evolution of the console, right? So the first game would be the most rudimentary, if I'm not correct.
The interesting thing is this game here is like a secret game. This game was like, when you read the description, this game was being developed on like company's time, like when the guys were sneaking and making this game.
Yeah,
you know, and I was like, whoa,
so crazy.
That's kind of cool. And the thing is, it's like if you pay,
I totally didn't get into the lore either. Like I just played some games.
I wish I could remember some of the developer names that they would have, because sometimes you would see the same developer name connected to another game, and you would see how those games kind of relate a little bit, like naturally.
Dude, Barbuto though, I noted that it's a platforming game that plays a lot like the classic Montezuma's Revenge. That is what it reminds me of. If you ever played Montezuma's Revenge on the Commodore 64 and the Atari 2600, I mean, you're going screen by screen. There's traps. You have a lot of fall damage and things like that. And this game absolutely has those aspects in mind. Now, did you dig deep into the game mechanics and into the game specialties? There are achievements, but there are like these, you have to get like these specific, like beat the game, but there's like a cherry too as well that you can earn if you like do certain things, like almost like achievements in the game for each one. I think there's 2 different things to master each game. And there's some of these games I will not master. It's super cool. I didn't know about the lore. I guess that's when you read the about or something.
Yeah, because I really love how the UI is simplistic yet very effective in organization. Because they did go into this thing and like these are 50 like games that are just off the wall. So you had like you'd have your own like little categories by genre, like quick games, epic games. And, like the epic games would be more of like your RPGs, so like the games that are a little bit more in depth. And then it would be like
there's a Metroidvania in there too, I think.
Oh yeah.
I've only played 5 of the games. Yeah, I've only played 5 of the games, and I didn't get to the Metroidvania yet. But it's more one of those things where I didn't want to like do all of the things at the same time. And I mean, wife wanted to watch TV too, so
yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like for the whole experience, I would say for the listeners, for the whole experience, like take your time with the games. Like don't just blow through them. Like, because I did that at first. I was blowing through. I was playing a little bit of it. I'm like, oh, yeah, this is cool. I'm going to jump to the next one. Oh, this is cool. Jump to the next one. But I did that because I wanted to find what was the first game out of the 50 that made me go, I need to play one more round. And that game, I'm looking at my notes right here because I wrote down a couple of different games. The one that really did it was Caramel.
And I had 2 out of the 5 that did this. I didn't play Caramel. What is Caramel? Go ahead.
Caramel is a side-scrolling shmup game, kind of like Life Force. What makes this really interesting, though, is how most of these games you have the bomb. Well, instead of a bomb, you push the button and it shows like a Polaroid picture, and it slows down time, like picture it in frame, so it helps you kind of navigate. Because it's kind of like Life Force in the sense that not only are you fighting enemies and projectiles, but also the environments as well. Like you're shooting, through the walls and stuff like that.
Can't touch the walls.
Yeah, like that game, I was like, all right, this is good stuff. Another one that was really oddly fun was Pin Golf.
Didn't play that one either. Pin Golf.
It's a sci-fi golf game. Yeah, you're playing as like this crazy sci-fi robot, and you're like shooting like this grenade missile thing, and you're trying to get to the goal. And it's almost like pinball because there's like little bumpers, and there's also like other enemies that you can try to get away from. That was a lot of fun. And
so in the going back and forth methodology, so some of the ones that I played, there was one that I played that I didn't enjoy actually. But then all the rest were ridiculous. One of the ones that hooked me, one of the first ones, it was called Overbold.
Oh, yes.
That one was like the NES port of Super Smash TV. Like, literally,
I put my arena style shooter.
And I mean, you got Xenocrisis. I think that's what it's called, Xenocrisis. On the that's the one that's Sega Genesis and on modern consoles now, or is that a different game? Maybe I'm thinking of a different one. There's a Xenocrisis for sure. I'm just not sure if that's the Smash TV style shooter game.
It is. Yes, it is.
But Overbold is awesome. The thing is that I didn't realize this as I kept playing one more round. That every time I died, I thought I was continuing. Oh no, you start over at the beginning. And I didn't realize it because I kept playing. I'm like, oh man, I keep on seeing the same things, but it gets progressively harder and harder and harder every single iteration that you fight the enemies. But then there'll be like different ones that like these damn birds pop up
birds piss me off.
The ones that are the bombs that blow you out. Like those are the ones that got me every freaking time. But it was such a fun game. I kept playing it over and over again. But I did allude to one that I did not like. It's called Quibble Race. I did not enjoy it. It's basically horse betting, but with aliens. So essentially, you have to like bet on different pieces. You can sabotage your enemies, and if they bet on someone, but it's more like there's like a big luck factor to it that you're like betting that your guy would do better than the others. but there is a strategy aspect to how you sabotage the enemies. But I've never been much on the jockey horse betting genre, which was very prevalent in the Super Nintendo era. I was not a big fan of those, and it was more that was in Japan, not in US for us normies over here in the US. But we didn't really have those. But writing the book on the Super Nintendo and Super Famicom, there's so many jockey games. That's what that one reminded of. That one was like the second game I played, and I was like, after Barbuda, and I'm like, oh, I don't like this one. The other one that I thought was pretty cool and I'm gonna save my favorite one for last. It didn't like catch me, but it was cool. The game that was like Windjammers with katanas, called Bushido.
Oh yes, that was a good one.
So fun, and the thing is, all of these graphical aesthetics are more like NES, like 8-bit, or Commodore 64. But actually, it was more like Commodore Amiga, probably, like with some of the games. Because I'm trying to use because I think that the developer had a UK background, especially with the lore of the PC. Because the PC looks like a Apple style, old school Apple computer with a screen on it, and then it has like Nintendo NES style controllers. ZL is ZX, ZL. So it's probably like a ZX spec, but there's full colors. So, but yeah, Bushido Ball, so cool because you're attacking the ball with your samurai swords, but then there's like these power ups that you do, and each samurai does like a different type of power up. And I think I got like 2 or 3 levels in, and then once I got to a certain level, like they just crushed me. Yeah, it was. Yeah, that was not good enough to because I could beat a few of them. But so what's another one that you enjoyed with it?
I'm gonna talk about another one that was because there's a couple of beat 'em ups, and there's a couple of them, but this one I really enjoyed, and that was Cyber Owl. Cyber Owl is a beefy man with an owl head, and he's just beating the hell out of robots, and it's just cheesy. It's great. I'm like, man, this is a lot of fun, and it played a lot like like Double Dragon or something like that.
Please tell me you'll be streaming some of this in the future.
Oh, that's the thing, because I am like fully involved in this fictional console. Like I want to have a stream and like educate everyone about the world of the ZL console. Like, man, check this out. I mean,
I think if he's from Europe though, you do have to say Zed.
Yeah. Oh, yes, that's right. Another one I think that you would really enjoy. I don't know if you played it, but it's Seaside Driver. It's like a side-to-side scrolling racing game shooter. Okay, so you're controlling the
spy side to side, but like Spy Hunter, but side to side.
Yeah, you're going from left to right. And you have you can either shoot up or shoot sideways, but the problem is the more you shoot, your vehicle starts to lose its power. Now, why it loses its power is projectiles actually change, so you can actually be kind of strategic about it by a certain kind of blast. Like maybe you want to let gas down, but the only way to power yourself back up is to to drift side by side. So you drift your car side by side, you repower up. And it is, man, that was one of those games where I was like, yeah, I'll play it for a little bit. And I played it for probably about 30 minutes. I played a good 30 minutes. That's a lot for a game like that. Freaking good.
And so it has a lot of little mini games. And so there's a game series that I love, and it's off of my favorite game show of all time. My favorite television show of all time is video game related. Have you ever heard of Game Center CX?
No, I hadn't.
So I actually have a plushie here of Arena, who's the main guy in Game Center CX. This guy plays video games, retro video games, in Japan, terribly. It is in the 26th season.
Oh my gosh.
That this dude has been playing video games. Life-changing this show is for you. About to blow your damn mind. Now, there is 3 games released based off of Game Center CX. One was localized, the second one was never localized, and the third one isn't as great on the 3DS. The one is called Retro Game Challenge. Retro Game Challenge is released for the Nintendo DS, and it is Game Center CX1. It has a bunch of retro games, kind of like this, but you play with like these little goals to beat. Usually they're super simple though, not like beat the game. But there's not 50 of them. This is like Game Center CX Retro Game Challenge turned up to like 11. This like UFO 50. You're really amazing.
Getting. And the thing is like you're getting like 50 games like that. Like it doesn't get more like blunt than that. And that's such a nice thing to hear in today because everything's usually got a cat.
50 NES style games, right? Like,
yeah.
So you're not going to get like a modern 40-hour game. You're going to get NES style retro games, but they're full games. They're not like, it's not Action 52 where the game kind of sucks. Like, but it's like programmed in a hurry. These were all programmed with a design in mind for a specific purpose, and they're full games. Some of them are high score chasers, but most of them are like, you can beat the game and play through it just like on the NES. Like this, the Moss Mouth, he created 50 full games. Like, that is ridiculous.
It is.
And I saved my favorite one to the end.
Oh, what was your favorite one?
So my favorite one is a combination of Kid Cleats with Bubble Bobble. Game is Kick Club. So basically, dude, so it is a single screen arcade game like Bubble Bobble or Snow Brothers, but you have a soccer ball and you kick the soccer ball into the characters to kill them like you would do with your bubbles from Bubble Bobble, but you're kicking, so you have the trajectory of kicking the ball, and then the ball can ricochet off of multiple enemies, and then they all turn into food just like in Bubble Bobble. And so like for me, I have a huge nostalgia playing the original Bubble Bobble on the NES and just playing it over and over again, playing through the levels, and I got immediately that nostalgia. I played it yesterday for like an hour, just playing through the levels. And then my wife's like, well, we need to watch our television show. I'm like, but I'm playing the game. Oh, okay, I'll stop.
Game.
And I literally just hit the pause button because the Steam Deck does pause, but I'm literally on Kick Club right now, wanting to play more of that game because it is so cool. And I don't know how, and I haven't looked online how to get all these unlockable achievements, but like I want to do the achievement on Kick Club.
And the crazy thing is like, the games even have sequels. Like right now, I played earlier. I played Mortal, and there's a Mortal 2 I haven't played yet that I'm really looking forward to. I cannot wait to play Mortal 2 because Mortal, this game is freaking amazing.
Genre? Because what's this genre?
It's a strategy game. In the sense that, like, okay, so you get, like, a certain amount of soldiers. Like, you have, like, 5 soldiers. You have to get from point A to point B. The problem is you have to sacrifice that soldier to make it easier for the next soldier to get to the point B. So, like...
in real life.
Yeah. It's so morbid, but it's so cartoony that it is like, okay, it's like Looney Tunes, but it's like it is kind of morbid because you can have, like, shoot your dude and his head like sticks into the wall and turns into a platform that you can jump to get to the other side, but there'd be like a bed of spikes, so you have to kill that guy so the next guy can do it and walk over him.
Okay.
Mortal 2 is even crazier because it goes medieval. Like, this starts off in cavemen. So I'm really looking forward to Mortal 2 and being like, oh man, what's going to happen now that we have chainmail? Like, dude, what's going on?
That is amazing. Like, see, the thing is like UFO 50 is insane. Like the 50 has the Action 52 vibes, and that's why people are going to inherently go to that. So that's a good and bad thing from the developer, is that they did this to get a hook that there's a bunch of games. But in reality, like, this is like a different beast. Like, I mean, if they don't have a physical lined up, hit up Premium Edition games, because I'm sure I could convince the team for an amazing physical on this. Like I would be on board for it.
And like anyway, like if there was a physical, this is just my pipe dream. If there was like a physical and this plays into the whole lore of the console, like comes with like a ZL T-shirt, or like I was talking about like a 3D printed console or something that we could like look into and be like, yeah, look at this. Oh man, like imagine you get the ZL like members only like 1987 jackets. Like, dude, I would buy one.
So me putting on my business hat. This is the Museum of Death, by the way. But putting on my business hat. So in the pictures of the console, there are controllers. You could literally do ZL custom controllers that work with Bluetooth on the game.
Yeah,
Like, you could literally play with the ZL controller. Like, it's literally it's an NES style controller, so you could literally rebrand.
I keep harping back.
See how cool that is. You can play with a controller for the game based on, because they're like little red control. It's like a red looking NES controller. On the actual pictures.
Yeah, I mean, I keep just going back to like the console itself. Because I feel like I've never experienced anything like this before. Like I've played games within games, like you'd play like a like No More Heroes. Like they had like a little arcade game, or like Yakuza or something like that, and you play the games within the game. But this is like a game that has its own like thing. Like
wait till you play Retro Game Challenge.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I got you.
And then Retro Game Challenge 2 takes 8-bit into Super Nintendo and Game Boy and craziness, but it's literally you're playing an NES, but it's fictional, and they have their own Nintendo Power and everything, with codes and like this right here to me takes that and makes it like indie games. Like this is the indie game version of what retro should be. It is so cool. I keep looking over because I got the video playing and shows the console in 3D.
And another thing is too is they do have multiplayer games, and there's one that I cannot recommend enough that would be a really fun game to play with someone, and that is Paint Chase. Paint Chase. It's like
I heard of this one.
It's like if you took Rad Racer with Splatoon.
Have you ever heard of the game called Make Tracks?
No.
Classic arcade. That is literally Paint Chase. Paint Chase is it's like you're playing Pac-Man, but you're coloring the level, right?
Yeah.
That is Make Tracks. There was actually an NES, a Famicom game that was based off of that. It is Make Tracks, but it's called something else in Japan. But Make Tracks is as a classic historical perspective, since I do have my little Twin Galaxies card from 2014. Walter Day had the world record.
I was about
the awesome guy on Make Tracks.
I was about to say I actually have your, and I was gonna pull it out, but I have your Twin Galaxies trading card.
Yeah. Nice, from back in the day.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I think I have, because Walter Day's crazy. I think I have 3.
Yeah,
like Dale, he's just like, hey, I showed up to a convention one year, and there was like one of me in my military uniform, and I'm like, oh, there's a 3rd card of me. I didn't even know
that's the one I have. Yeah, that's the one I have.
The military one? Yeah, I didn't even know that was a thing until he showed it to me. I'm like,
okay.
I didn't, and it's like one of those where it's like, he never even asked if he could use the picture of me in Melted. I'm like, it was from my wedding, so I'm like, that's cool. Hey, Walter Day is awesome. He's a saint. He really is. And any of the crazy shenanigans of Twin Galaxies, like Walter Day had no clue. He's awesome.
I love Walter. Yeah, I've had a couple interactions with him. He's great. But yeah,
because my other cards is one I'm like going like this, pointing at my tattoo, and then the other one I had with my daughter. I was like, yes, I'm going to do a card with my daughter. It was an appearance one at a show. And he did an appearance card in Ottumwa, Iowa that I was at.
So cool.
Yeah. So wild. That was in 2014, which is like 10 years ago now.
Feels like yesterday, though. Feels like yesterday. It's crazy.
It is so crazy. But yeah, we can't recommend. I mean, I'll speak for you. We can't recommend UFO 50 enough. Like, it is a gem.
It's making me it's making me reconsider my games of the year. Like I thought I had my game of the year, my game of the year. I thought I already had it figured out, but I don't know now. This game came out there, and it was like, whew.
Mine is not because I usually do it on my blog or my website. I do my top 10 of the year, and I usually have to complete them, so it doesn't have to be released in the year. And I'm sure on the podcast here we'll do a top games of 2024. I mean,
Oh yeah.
yeah. But like I have beaten some really awesome games this year, and I made it a goal to play a little bit more this year than I have in previous years. But like UFO 50 is got to be up there. Like it is cool. And the thing is, we've only scratched the surface within Beyond.
Yeah.
Like, dude.
Yeah,
So-
because there's other games I haven't even mentioned. I can't remember the name of it, but I'll just say it's a 2D Power Stone. They have 2D Power Stone on it, dude.
Yeah. There's a few of those. I mean, I've released a 3D Power Stone. Like Mighty Fight Federation I released years ago.
Oh, yeah, that
There's like Toe Jam and Earl in it, ukulele, and like the mechanics weren't as tight as a Smash or a Power Stone, but the game is fun as hell. And like there's just infinite of these out there. I think that might be a good transition to talk about like what we found in the last week, the On the Horizon section. Whereas if this becomes, a couple episodes, like this is what we found within the week of indie. But so these games we found, like we're gonna quickly preview them, talk about it. You'll probably have to look them up as we talk, just because the native piece. We do have like an ongoing Google Doc that we both have access to, but there's one in here that I want to talk about that my interest was piqued, but it's not good. And that is G.I. Joe Wrath of the Cobra came out, which is a beat 'em up that looks exactly like looks on paper, video, looks like Turtles, looks like Toxic Crusaders. Like it looks like it would be amazing. And it is a very quickly made beat 'em up that just is like the beat 'em ups you talked about in UFO 50, like outshine this game. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
It is one of those where the license was used and they just pushed it out a little quicker. Could it be fixed with patches? Absolutely. It could be fixed with future patches, which is a good thing. And it is a modern trope that a game that is recently released is not necessarily its final form. Just like our podcast, The Indecredible, is not our final form. But I did write Beware next to that one because I inherently like, this is one that I need to talk about on, Indie Gaming Jam. One of the other games that I have on here, on this list, did you play the original version? Because this one is the sequel. It's called Grapple Dogs, Cosmic Canines. Now, are you aware of the original Grapple Dog? So Grapple Dog was a unique one because it was part of a controversy back in the day on the Nintendo Switch where you had companies that were releasing physically only, no digital games. And this was the thing that they were trying to do is like, hey, so you don't want to buy this game when it's digital? We're going to make it only physical. And Grapple Dog is like one of those that was in that conversation. It is an amazing 2D style platformer where you have like a little grappling hook, and it is a really fun game. I want to say, I don't remember the game company off the top of my head. It's one of the ones that's in Europe though. But this game is absolutely on digital now, and they recanted and realized due to community backlash, it's probably a bad idea to not make the game available to a giant market. But like Grapple Dogs, Cosmic Canines adds, this sequel, and it adds a 2-player co-op to it, which to me looks cool as shit. The graphics in this look amazing, pixel style art. Being able to play it cooperatively is a huge benefit for this series now. Because the first one I played the hell out of it when it was released. I just enjoyed it. Never again, my backlog is infinite, so I never get around to beating a lot of these games, which is why in 2024 I created, I have a backlog Excel spreadsheet, and I've been getting after stuff. But Grapple Dogs is on my short list of Grapple Dog is on my short list to beat. Now Grapple Dogs, now there's a sequel to play. And so it's more of this amazing style. So what are your thoughts? Have you looked it up? What are your thoughts on this one?
I haven't had a chance to check it out, but it sounds right up my alley. Like I
Yeah, so
I feel like I've heard Grapple Dogs before. I feel like it sounds very familiar.
Grapple Dog is the first one, and it's like $15. The new one is $18, and it is. I'm gonna look it up as we chat. Medallion Games is the developer, and it's published by Super Rare Games. So Super Rare is the company in Europe that did the original. And I remember it was like a physically only, and then they recanted, and then they do like Super Rare does their originals line where they're trying to help indie developers publish. And so as the game caught steam, now they go into, this like, now we get a sequel for it. So to me, the model's working if we get a sequel to a game that they had in the originals. That's really, really cool to me. Yeah, and if you're looking into it, though, like there's a grapple thing, there's a lot of bullet hell pieces, bosses, and it's like a 2D style, but with art. Like it's like a really refined artistic aspect to it. It is so cool. Now instead of having just the puppy, the brown puppy, now you get this gray wolf looking puppy too. It's almost like, Fox McCloud and Wolf.
Oh yes, I'm looking at it right now. I've definitely had an interest in this game.
Well, you knew about the original for sure.
Yeah,
there's a Grapple Dog. Yes.
Yeah.
This is the sequel, so that's where I'm like, I didn't even know that they were making a sequel, and that as soon as I see it, I'm like, oh, this goes in Indie Gaming Gems, because absolutely, even though it inherently is being backed by a physical publisher and will have a physical, it is still extremely indie. Extremely indie. Because I like to cover the stuff that nobody knows about, but like this one, yeah, and the list here, like these games, like people should know. If you know indie games, you should know of some of these games here that we're talking about today. This is what we call the free chicken, the easy stuff for you all to get on board with us here.
Oh yeah.
And if you don't know about Grapple Dogs, welcome. Like, you're going to be in store for a treat. Just like with UFO 50, now we got some amazing platformers, and now you got this whole co-op aesthetic. So now that you've looked at it, what are your thoughts on this piece?
I'm stoked. It's right up my alley.
Exactly. And right now it's only available on Steam. So
yeah, I'm telling you, man, I'm gonna end up getting this Steam Deck. End up getting one.
So the next game that's on the list, that is another sequel, because this is the episode with a bunch of spiritual successors in the 5 list. A Wizard of Legend 2. The original Wizard of Legend got a physical release. I want to say, I could be wrong, and I'm not going to look it up, that it had a Play Exclusives release on PlayAsia. The original Wizard of Legend. But it definitely has a physical release on Nintendo Switch. This one is more of it's released by Humble. So Humble Games is the digital publisher. So again, not as indie, but Dead Mage, who did the development of this game, is absolutely an indie game developer. This is more like isometric 3D third-person style action game. It is so freaking fun. These games are the super addicting Hades style with, Diablo and all those pieces, but it's more on action with them. Wizard of Legend is a super cool game. And the thing is, I'm not always going to talk about like retro pixel art games. Like, this is more modernistic.
Yeah, I was going to say it's
so cool.
Yeah, I was going to say this game looks a lot more like more of a modern game, like something you'd get on the Switch or something for sure.
But 100% like independently developed, and that's the key. Is like, to me, indie is everything, and it can be any type of game, and it is the smaller, developed, under the radar. And again, just like the original Wizard of Legend, just like Grapple Dog, it probably will get a physical in the future by Humble, and that it should, should, because it is a cool game. And so like that leads us into the next one. Let's go talk about Hive Jump. Are you aware of the original Hive Jump? Is this we're talking Hive Jump 2?
Yeah, Hive Jump is. I mean, it looks like a floaty shooter.
Exactly. So this is kind of like Hive Jump is like you're in the Vampire Survivors like games. You know what I mean?
Oh my lord!
Yeah. And I mean, even Premium has our own. We got Scarlet Tower. That is freaking amazing too. And like this game though, the original Hive Jump was so cool. This one though was released with a budget price. It's like $7 or $8 to buy it. This is the sequel. The original is like still $20 or something. This one is like $7 or $8 right now. It is cool as hell. It is developed by I'm looking over at it right now. Graphic Light Joystick and Sonamu Games, but like independent developers. Along in the digital publishers Midwest Games. Original Hive Jump definitely had some notoriety of being a really fun and difficult game, roguelike style. And now this one just adds more to it. Because of the price, it makes it seem like it might be almost like a DLC add-on or something. But to me, it looks like a full-fledged game. Haven't played it yet. I mean, we're previewing this stuff here for the podcast. Like we're previewing our thoughts as things get released. Because we don't have infinite time to play all this stuff. But like
exactly,
Hive Jump 2 looks so cool,
really good.
And that is I wanted to kind of talk about all these different games that are coming out that like are based off of stuff that has already gotten like notoriety or physical releases. But then there's the last of the 5 games that I want to talk about, and this is one of those ones that's out in the middle of nowhere, the Plucky Squire. I don't know if you've heard of this game. This is a wild one. Like, watch the trailers, everyone.
Yeah.
This is like you're playing a children's notebook, and there's a video game involved with it, and like you're playing at somebody's desk, and it's like 2.3D, like character development, Earthbound style art. Like, this is what it's all about.
Yeah, it was free on the PlayStation Plus.
It was. And so like the Plucky Squire was on a lot of those radars of the upcoming games in 2024 that you need to check out. I am glad that they put it on PlayStation Plus or, when they put them on Xbox Game Pass, because it gives gamers a reason to check it out. That does tend to affect the physical sales in the future. But I will tell you from the publisher perspective, a good game is a good game. I would sign it because it's preservation. Preservation is the important piece of that. But this game, like you watch videos on it, like I got it on, it's like you're playing in somebody's toy game room. Like the game is played inside of a game. Like it is, and there's like 3D aspects, but it still has that retro feel to it. Like this is like insanely like detailed game. The developer is All Possible Futures. That's their name. All Possible Futures. And every time we talk about these games, I always want to talk about who the developers are, so that way we look back at it as we talk about more. Maybe we'll see like patterns of the game developers.
Indeed.
Now here's the piece. Now where this meets our 5 is the digital publisher is Devolver Digital. I don't know if you know about Devolver Digital at all as a digital publisher, but they were linked with Special Reserve Games with the physical games. Special Reserve Games no longer does physical games. Devolver Digital does their own physical publishing. The Special Reserve only published Devolver Digital, but they were not the same company. So the thing is that this game here, the Plucky Squire, will likely have a physical as well. So we're kind of giving you a preview of the easy games that likely will have a physical in the future. But I will tell you, as we go deeper down the rabbit hole, Alice, like I have games that like nobody's heard of, and they're like masterpieces. And that is what excites me as a gamer.
That's what excites me about being involved.
Dude, it's like, and what excites me about creating the book to preserve all this, as well as talking the episodes, is like introducing people to like, have you heard of this game? And people are like, no. I mean, now you're at to the point where you could talk about Overbold and what the hell are you talking about? Well, it's part of this UFO 50 that has this unique, like, you're going to be able to jump into this unique rabbit hole, and nobody's played because it's not on consoles right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's a game within the game. And it's like insane. And like games like the Plucky Squire likely will have a physical, but it's still going to be under the radar because it's still done by an indie publisher. Even though it's like physical, it's still like hipster style.
And it is, and honestly, like when I first saw Plucky Squire, honestly, I was like, huh. You know, I kind of skipped it at first when I was looking at the games I could download. At Plucky Squire, okay. But then I was like, let me just watch the trailer. And I watched the trailer and I'm like, hold up. Hold one moment. It's kind of like when someone tells you like a food concoction that you don't think would taste really good. They're like, have you tried this and that? And you're like, I don't know about that. And you try it. Hold up. You're cooking with gas. And I saw that trailer. I'm like, okay, I got to download it. I was like, I got to have this.
And this is where things get crazy. It's like there are, hundreds of games released a week. And that's a no joke. But where I'm looking at is, okay, so I've been reviewing games for over 20 years, been playing games for close to 40. So like I have a keen lens that I'm looking at things with, and there is a bias of genre to where certain genres, look at the balloons.
The balloons come from?
I don't know. That was awesome. But there's certain genres that I will inherently be drawn to. But on the other side, like I'm looking at things with a keen lens of our generation. This is what looks cool, but also like quality. Because now I've done the physical publishing and I know what I would sign as a company. So it's a very curated list that I'm releasing. And, there's of course there's some bias because we all have our favorites, but like, it is very shit. So when you get invested in the indie credible podcast, as well as indie gaming gems, as well as the book, is like, you're getting our perspective on stuff, which is really cool, as well as like get to learn about tons and tons of new stuff. And we took it easy on you this week because there's a lot of stuff with some known values this week, but like I could literally hit randomizer on my Steam Deck if the randomizer works per like the last episode that we talked. But like I didn't just blow people's minds and be like, all right, here's a Metroidvania. Have you heard about it? When I interviewed the Metroidvania guru on VGBS, there was like, we just kept on doing that. And he had no clue about half of it. He's the Metroidvania dude. And I'm like, these are all out on Steam, man. Like you play them right now. And like, we're not going to talk about the easy stuff.
And again, this is what I like about indie gaming, because I have a very punk rock background. I like a lot of underground bands. I like bands that like me and my guitarist, we listen to a lot of like 80s burning spirits Japanese hardcore bands. These bands were like together for like 4 months. They put out an album which is consisted of their first show, and then they broke up, and that was it. And you're like, oh, you gotta find those like little niblets of music and stuff. It's like that with indie gaming too.
I'm the guy that'll go on Pandora and listen to Enforcer Radio.
Yeah.
If you haven't listened to Enforcer Radio, it's like Metallica, but not Metallica. And then because it's Pandora, it goes to all of the random like hipster bands from the 80s that nobody's heard of. And like, you're just hearing amazing stuff. My wife hates it because she loves popular stuff, and I'm like sitting here listening to like stuff that sounds like freaking Master of Puppets, but it's not Metallica, and it's so freaking good.
Yeah, so I get that. I get that same enjoyment with indie games, and it's not just like, oh, these games they're like playing old games, and I like old games because I'm a retro gamer. It's not like that at all,
dude.
Not at all.
Wizard of Legend 2 is the perfect example. It's modern style, and it's so good. I mean, and there are games that I cover and that, in indie gaming gems that are like 3D style, like action platformers, and they're amazing.
And
that is modern.
And we're getting into a wide spectrum of what is considered retro aesthetic, because now not only do we get the 8 to 16-bit, indie inspired games, but we're also getting those polygon, ridgy, 3D rendered backgrounds. We're starting to get that with indie games, especially with the survival horror genre. Which, by the way, just going back to UFO 50, there is a point and click survival horror game on there. It's freaking awesome. I think it's called like Hell Manor or something like that. Really, really cool. Really, really cool. Especially if you love Clock Tower.
So the one thing that's classic too is like even the YouTube channel that I'm running, Indie Gaming Gems. Number one, not retro necessarily, and not hidden. Like, they don't have to be hidden. Indie Gaming Gems. So like in one episode, I'm covering Balatro. Balatro has had millions of downloads, but it's made by one person. 100% an indie game. It is one of my top games of the year. I don't know if it'll be number one or not, but like I got completely obsessed, and it's literally poker with Joker modifier. It is so freaking good. That is absolutely the definition of an indie gaming gem. And it doesn't have to be hidden. It doesn't have to be retro. None of those two pieces are not in there at all. We're not talking about hidden gaming gems or hidden retro gems. Like, this is indie gaming. This is stuff made by passionate developers, typically on the small budget, but it doesn't have to be, because literally we talk Shadow the Ninja Reborn, that's Natsume, but it's still indie because it has that, indie feel to it. It's a retro aesthetic that does inherently make it indie as well. And we'll have to talk in the future episode about, is something, if it has a retro aesthetic, does it inherently make it?
That would be an interesting.
That's on
interesting.
That's a future episode. That's a future episode for sure.
Because,
and like, whether we write that down now or not, we may not remember, but you in the comments, listening and watching, make sure you remind us of that stuff to spur our memories. That, hey, I want to hear about that. Because we have to talk about it in our outro, like previewing next episodes. So for, the future episode on where we currently are in the timeline, we're going to talk about like what sparked our interest in indie games in the future, which is, a unique topic. And then we would like to cover, even though, essentially we have 2 episodes here in our first recording, we would like to talk about the newest games we played quickly. The first episodes of a podcast, we always, guess at the set the tone. So whether Xander makes it 2 or 1 is up to him. Your beast. I just like to shoot the shit.
Oh yeah, indeed. It was fun. I mean, for me, like, I haven't been playing that much more than we've already been talking about. I haven't, other than like Zelda and Astrobot, like that's about it right now. Which I haven't really played much of Zelda because UFO 50 took over my life all day. So
you're welcome. UFO 50 only stopped because my wife wanted to watch our weekly obsession of watching Survivor, because we watched Survivor. So I had to stop, and I haven't went back to it because I had to work today, and now I'm going to play it tonight after I drink some tequila. Because yes, I haven't been drinking. I've been drinking tequila here, everyone. Feeling good. As I slur my words to the episode, like leave a comment and talk smack to Xander about me slurring my words.
Sorry.
The thing is, though, is that I am going to inherently find 10 games a week that are worth us talking about, but we're going to try to limit it to about 5 to cover. And then we'll each shoot the shit as the week goes on. We need to play this game. Just like Iron Meat, like I had inherently already knew about it and played it. And you mentioned, oh yeah, I want to talk about Iron Steaks, and I'm like, yeah, we'll talk about it. But Iron Steaks. But I had already played it. But even though if I didn't, I would have just popped it, bought the game, and played it. Like if it was one of those, because number one, we need to support. Number two, we need to definitely talk about it. So there are games too that we got to cover, and we should try to do it in the episodes, like games that are on Kickstarter that need some love. I know Premium announced a game. Premium Edition announced a game that we are doing physically. It's like Fate of the Fae. It looks like freaking Chrono Trigger. It's an RPG. It looks like Chrono Trigger. It looks amazing. I know the developers want to work on an art book and things. We had announced that we're doing the physical, so I can talk about it. There are games that we have. We have a Premium Direct coming up in like a week or two from the time of this recording that I've been working on packaging for that are freaking amazing. One of them is an S tier title, and off recording, I will tell you what it is, and it'll blow your mind that we're doing the physical of it. But I can't talk about those on the podcast until it's announced. But Fate of the Fae, and I think I'm saying that correctly because I can't look it up on my phone. That game looks really, really cool, and it is live on Kickstarter right now. We are doing the physical. I had jokingly told Xander before we recorded that I didn't do the mock-ups for this one. So inherently, whatever you see on there will at least be like that, if not cooler. Because I will go to the next level to make sure that the physical packaging is exactly how the developers imagined it. Make sure that it is the coolest thing ever. If the packaging that's on there, if that's exactly how they want it, we'll make it happen. But I will provide recommendations based on my nostalgia to see if they want to make it cooler.
Oh yeah. Hell yeah.
That is mine. Do you have any, just off the top of your head, putting you on the spot with no previous rehearsal of any indie games that you have out there that you might, because in the future you'll have some, of course.
I'm definitely going to be talking about Pizza Tower in the future. That's a game that just got released on Switch. It's been on Steam for a long time, and it's a game. And it's a game that I hadn't had a chance to play it. I'm like, all right, now I'm going to get it. Even though now I'm thinking about just getting it on Steam. Like I was like, oh, now it's on Switch. I'm going to get it on Switch. I'm like, well, now I'm playing on Steam now, so I'm going to get it on Steam.
Pizza Tower is an obsession, man.
Yeah.
Like, we definitely had a video game bullshit episode on Pizza Tower. That's how good it was. So we did that for bullshit homework for a while. It is obsession, Wario Land style, just amazing. Amazing.
Yeah, the only reason why I hadn't gotten it is because I was playing Astrobot, and I'm like, I don't want to play too many platformers, and I have weird.
That is fair.
I have like weird stipulations for my backlog. Like I don't like playing like two games that are like really story driven. Like two.
Now you not knowing about Pizza Tower, they are not the same. Astrobot is 3D Mario. It's like comparing Mario 64.
Oh yeah.
To Wario Land.
Yeah, it's not. I know they're nothing related, but I was just like,
nothing plus.
It's like I don't
like the same genre.
Yeah, because I mean, it's 2D and 3D.
No, Pizza Tower is not a platformer.
Isn't it like? Well, yeah, it's more like Wario World.
Like Mario Land. So you can literally go through. You can't be killed, and then you get to the end, and you got speed back to the exit, which is ridiculous. That's where the craziness comes in. Like it is its own beast. Like Astrobot for me is like Mario 64, Mario Sunshine, Mario Galaxy, where it's a classic 3D platformer, but it's cutesy as shit. I need to buy it still. I haven't yet. I literally was going to buy it, and here on the military post, the post exchange did not have, for some reason, Astrobot, and I didn't go to GameStop. So I didn't buy it yet, but I definitely need to play it. It is on my short list of games to play. Whether I do or not is another question. But yeah, no, Astrobot was cool. But like, Pizza Tower is an obsession. It is absolutely an indie game. It has a physical though, so it is that next tier above. It's not as obscure. But I'm gonna come up with a couple of obscure games for you to play as well. Whether you want to do budget or not, like we can
figure it out. Yeah.
I mean, because like I had mentioned Indie Gaming Gems. At this point, I have 5 episodes recorded and edited. By the time we launch this, there'll be 1 or 2 out. I'm going to do 1 episode a week. That's how I'm rolling it out to give me some buffer time to work on physical books and things. I have 10 episodes already recorded for all of the scripts that I'm going to do for the review. So I already have 10 episodes of 10 games done. 100 games have already been reviewed for the channel.
Sheesh.
You're gonna realize like I'm doing a mini snippet for the episode, and then it's a long form review for the book.
Yeah,
like it is crazy. But yeah, Indie Gaming Gems is going to be a fun project, and this podcast is a perfect excuse for us to just like flaunt and talk about amazing indie games, whether they're old or new. Pizza Tower will be a fun one. I mean, I'm sure we'll play something else.
I'm telling you, it's going to get to the point where you're going to have to start doing like Easter eggs that correspond with the episodes and the writing. So you have them as like a retro Windhagen verse, you know? Like, oh man, did you see that? Did you see that Easter egg in the article that kind of referenced the thing in the video? I think that'd be kind of cool.
Make it completely meta. Hey, who's to say that some of this back and forth terminology is going to make it into a review in the future? Oh, yeah. It'll be hilarious. I mean, and I'm sure that a Xander will write in the Indie Gaming Gems books, and there'll be some podcasts mentioning in there, and the thing is, so if I already have 10 episodes done and I'm doing 25 episodes for a full 500-page book, yeah.
There's a lot.
Think about that.
Oh, yeah.
And I want to say I've only finished 3 or 4, and I have the spreads already done. I only have like 3 or 4 spreads done right now, because it takes a while to write a long-form review and edit it. And once I start showing off the style that I'm doing, and I'll give you a copy so you can pop it up on screens and stuff. It looks cool as hell. Like, I'm literally having text around imagery, and it's like modernized, but they're long form reviews. So in 2 pages, I got to get a full review. I want it to be classic magazine style.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But 500 pages, like that size of this NES book that I showed. Like, this size is what it's going to be. This is a 500-page book. Like, this sucker right here that you have to like curl and stuff. Like, this is the size that will be 1 season of 25 episodes of Indie Gaming Gems. And we'll be talking about, like, you think UFO 50 is going to make it in there? You're damn right it will.
Oh, yeah.
And do you think we have podcast recordings from? Yes, we do. So it's like, it is such a cool meta way to track the history and enjoy ourselves as we do it, and then like preserve and have fun, building the community. That's what it's all about.
Indeed.
So with that being said, make sure that you absolutely comment on the video. If you're listening to us on the podcast, there are absolute ways and Spotify and Apple iTunes to leave comments and leave feedback. Talk about what games you've played, because we will probably check it out if you post a game. Like, we will probably look into it and be like, oh yeah, we're tracking that. Or what the heck? We weren't even aware that game exists.
Or you'll simply get a "I'm sorry" from Jeff. I'm sorry, I just introduced you to that.
You're welcome. I've now changed Xander's life for the better.
You're right. Like I said, like I was like, I think I'm gonna get a Steam Deck. 5 minutes later. So that's where it all started.
That's where the sickness began. Let me move on to a Windows-based PC that there's multiple iterations of now. I mean, there's literally, I was over at the Host Exchange looking for Astrobot, and then there's another indie gaming handheld that's Windows-based that's literally sitting there. And it has a 512 gigabytes instead of a 1 terabyte like the Lenovo Legion Go has, but I'm like, it looks equally as cool. I would just recommend doing your research before you buy any major expensive handheld. I have put the Lenovo Legion Go through its tests, through the trials. It is through its paces. It is a quality one. That is the one that I recommend that people use, because I have been using it. And then the Steam Deck, for affordability right now, you can't go wrong with the original Steam Deck on sale. Like, that is absolutely the way to go for just indie retro style smaller games. That is the way right now, especially affordability. If you don't mind that in a year or so they're going to release a successor.
Yeah.
And not getting the OLED right now. As we get the OLED, it's still like $350. I think you might be able to get the original. It's on sale. It's $100 cheaper or more at times.
Indeed. And man, I can't wait for the next episode. I think it's a good,
Oh yeah,
good wrap up spot right here. So we
absolutely.
got more stuff to dive into, and yeah. So welcome to the beginning of the podcast. This is the end of the first episode.
End of the beginning of an
Yeah, indeed. You go play some Iron Steak.
Play some Iron Stakes and some Shadow of the Warrior. No, but Shadow of the Ninja Reborn, UFO 50, Iron Meat, all three exceptional titles that we played. We won't always be like 100% crazy about every single game that's released. And even in the UFO 50, I didn't really enjoy the Quibble race, but the other four I played, Barbuda, Bushido Ball, Overbold, and Kick Club, were all exceptional. And then, like, you got me excited talking about like a dozen other freaking games that have
Seaside Driving. Yeah, Seaside Driving. That's good stuff.
Dude, they all sound so freaking cool. And it's like, I'm just gonna sit here and I'll be like, all right, so next episode we're talking. Oh, all I played was UFO 50.
Yeah.
Thanks, Xander. Thanks.
Indeed. All right, well, I think we're just gonna wrap it up. As always, guys, happy gaming.
Keep supporting indie.